All right. Good morning, everybody. What's happening? It's Monday morning. CliffCentral.com. We got Ryan and we've got Leigh-Ann Moore.
Thank you very much.
Very nice. You approve of your...
Yeah,
okay.
it's okay.
You liked your introduction?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Ryan, you get up to anything fun?
Not really. Pretty boring weekend. Just
boring.
Chilled inside. Yeah.
Oh.
I wish I did a bit more, but
expecting some enthralling stories. But Leigh-Ann came in here. I'll tell you why I'm late in a minute. Like,
no.
Built it up, and I know it's not going to be that satisfying, but you made it sound like you had a big story to tell us.
I've misplaced my purse. Right, it's somewhere.
Is that the end of the story? Because then it's really so disappointing.
See you next week.
Okay, everybody, cheers. Well, that was a fun show.
Misplaced my purse over the weekend, and so I'm newly introduced to virtual cards and
Apple Pay,
tapping and paying and scanning and QR codes.
Very nice.
Thought I could pull a quick one and pop past the petrol station this morning and buy something, and couldn't tap to pay for some reason. Then ended up Googling it. And it seems like FNB stopped tap to pay 2 days ago.
Nonsense, really?
Really?
Yeah. How weird.
No
FNB
way.
pulls plug on tap to pay functionality 2 days ago.
Hold on, I gotta look.
FNB kisses goodbye to tap to pay.
Why, those bastards?
Unbelievable.
Then it's time to change banks.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm telling you, that would make... I wouldn't change banks easily, but that would be the thing.
I then remembered e-wallet, so I managed to draw some cash.
Why would they?
Some cash.
Is that for real, Ryan? Double check her. She might be drunk.
There's articles about this.
Yeah,
this is what
she might be drunk.
Will no longer be supported.
I'll double check it.
Will no longer be supported in the coming months.
What?
It underwent maintenance on Tuesday, and the bank asked users to deregister and re-register Tap to Pay for them to be able to continue using the platform before it is retired.
Well,
what? Wait, is this permanent?
Yeah.
I mean, you better explain yourselves.
I mean, guys, I've just rushed in here. I haven't had much grace period to look into it properly. But
this is what my broadband says, okay?
Yeah.
They've confirmed the discontinuation of their contactless tap-to-pay facility for Android smartphone users.
Oh, well, it didn't work on my phone.
I don't care then. You guys carry on complaining.
I'm not an Android.
Are you an Apple?
Yes, I'm an Apple.
So maybe the guy who told you didn't know.
So the head of card digitization at FNB, that's Jason Fillion, told Times Live that the launch and uptake of global digital wallet solutions like Google Wallet drove the decision.
Okay, so in other words, you need to use Google Wallet.
Yeah.
Look, I felt 100 years old today at that till. I couldn't figure anything out.
Support is still given, blah, blah, blah. Although Google Wallet is available for iOS devices through the Apple App Store, it doesn't support Google Pay's tap on phone. iPhone users must instead use Apple Pay.
You see?
Oh, okay, so Apple Pay Store.
So I use that. So what do you use? You use Google?
No, I used FNB before.
So I wonder if the FNB app is...
So they're not discontinuing the payment thing.
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
It's on their own app.
I was just relieved to have hard, cold cash in my hand after all of that.
Yeah, well, this happened to me on Saturday night because I went to the concert, that Calabash concert they did at FNB Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, I realized I haven't been to a concert in a stadium for a very long time.
You're doing all these new things, horse racing and now this.
Yeah, you're
forcing myself to not be boring. But I went in on the complete wrong side of the stadium. By the way, I only arrived late because I didn't want to see any of the opening acts. I mean, I heard they were fantastic, but I don't.
You're at the age where you can choose.
Yeah, and also then I didn't need all the people, So frankly, it suited me to walk in there at 7:30. I got to see a little bit of a guy called Loyiso on stage.
Nice.
Yeah, very good. Then he got off. Then they started setting up for Keen, who I was ready there for.
Yeah.
Awesome band. God, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
That guy's voice is so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, they did their whole set, which was fantastic. And then there was a guy called Willy Nilly. What's his name?
Will Lindley.
Will Lindley.
Very cool.
I feel so old. I said there were these 19-year-old girls sitting in front of me, and then I go, "You looking forward to seeing Will Lindley?" So I go, "Willy Nilly, what?"
No, he's cool, man. The kid's
He's
young.
very cool. He's South African. Yeah.
The stadium gig is huge for him. This is huge.
Yeah, so I did that. I'm getting to the point with the money, right? But then Maroon 5 come on after him. And I looked at, I thought, oh, okay, so the concert's going to end at midnight.
Mm.
I have to be out of here at 11 or I'm going to get stuck.
Oh, no.
So I watched 4 Maroon 5 songs and then went out to the stadium. I was there with 2 friends as well, so they came with me.
Well, you put in a good effort, I think.
But I needed cash because we needed to pay the Uber driver because you know it's going to be impossible.
Did you Uber there?
Ubered there, but I said no. So I thought, you see, I'm not an idiot.
I'm just checking.
I'm not amateur. I have friends who've been. They always get caught because they're stupid. I'm not stupid. I'll explain. So I say to the guy who's taking us there, listen, Alfred is his name. So Alfred, you must meet us here at 11 o'clock. We'll pay you cash.
Okay, because it's impossible to get an Uber from.
Exactly.
Right?
Way more than the app. Right here. You remember this place? Yeah. All sorted. Like, we will get some cash.
Bypass the app.
Bypass the app.
Very nice.
We'll get some cash on the way home from an ATM somewhere, and then we'll give you the cash. What a nightmare, too, because it's hard to kind of, if you don't have your cards on you, and who carries their cards anymore?
Well, me until this
cash,
weekend.
You know?
And if F&B is not tapping anymore, I mean, that's...
I'm going to have to carry cards again. Well, let's not spread mis or disinformation here. But
yeah, well, we'll look into it, but...
We'll look into it.
Unconfirmed reports.
Leigh-Ann making us very nervous for the start of the show this morning.
Did you get Uber Black or did you go like
no,
regular?
It was Uber Black. And also,
you see, that's the only way.
That's the way to go.
That's the only way to do it.
These other guys are cowboys.
Anyway, I don't trust regular Uber.
It worked out perfectly. I was standing there waiting. He picked us all up. We went back into town. Then I actually saw a guy try to steal a girl's handbag.
Oh.
Wild.
So
was she like a pedestrian?
No, well, she was standing there with 2 of her friends. So it was 3 girls, and they were standing there quite close to the edge of the road. This car pulls up. It was all so quick. It just happens in like seconds. Car pulls up. Guy gets out of the car, lunges for her bag, tries to grab it, but it's like strapped onto her in 100 different ways. She's obviously like an old hand at Joburg. This girl knows her way around. And she didn't flinch. I think she tried to clap him. She was going to clap him, and then he kind of realized it wasn't going to happen. And so he jumped back in the car, and the car drives off. But all in seconds. And she's standing there. I said, Jesus, did he try and take your bag? She's like, I've strapped me in 3 different ways. And she's like totally unperturbed.
Yeah. It's crazy how
Joburg
we
people are
live.
really different. Yeah. They're a different breed. Joburg people are just so not scared of shit.
But listen, Cape Town's actually worse. I mean, I've told you before, I was mugged there 3 times within a year. And by kids as well. Like 13-year-old kids taking my phone.
Wow.
And me shouting at them like a mom running down the street. Give me back my phone.
I'll beat a child senseless if it comes to steal. I swear to God. I'll attack it with a cricket bat. I will not hold back. That child would be left as a mess on the sidewalk. Oh, try and steal my shit, you little 13-year-old. Teach you what it is to be 30. Although they're so wily, you don't stand a chance, actually.
In Joburg, you can negotiate with criminals.
Really?
Some of my friends got
mugged. Oh, my God.
And then, like, they took my friend's phone when he was walking back from school the one day. And his wallets and stuff. And he's like, hey, dude.
What a shithead you have to be to steal from a school child.
Yeah. And so he was like, hey, man, like, listen, can I at least get, like, my documents out of my wallet? You can have, like, whatever's in it. Can I just get, it's a pain in the ass to get this card and whatever. And then he says with the phone, he's like, listen, can I just get my SIM card at least? Like, you can have the phone, but can I just get my SIM? Because it's a pain in the ass to go get another one.
Yeah, all right.
Another one is like, fine. And then my friend's like, listen, what do you need this phone for? And he's like, no, it's my son's birthday. I need money. He's like, I'll tell you what, why don't I give you money? Like, I'll follow me to my house. I'll give you some money. So then he's like, okay, fine. He goes to my friend's house. My friend goes inside and he gets like money out of his parents' drawer or whatever. And he gives the guy money. And then he says, cool, you can give me a lift. Like he was on a bicycle. He just like lift me down the street. My friend's like, yeah, sure.
So you ended up having like a friendship.
Pretty much. It was like negotiating a mugging. It was
But
so
you,
funny.
you kind of, when you play these things through in your mind, like
Unbelievable.
as a woman, you often think, okay, if somebody attacks me in this basement, dark basement, I'll say to them, look, you can have your way with me. Can we fetch condoms first? a friend of my mom's did that.
Really?
She said to the guy, I'll do whatever you want, but please have a bath first. And while he was in the bath, she stabbed him to death.
That's clever.
Very nice.
So I like a little revenge story like that.
Wow.
That makes me happy. But
You
oh my
bought
God.
that?
Yeah.
Wild.
I came here just for the news, says Ricky.
Yeah.
Audrey
You
says the
should.
park and ride buses worked like a charm. Yeah, well, I did that for the 2010 World Cup, but I haven't been there for a couple of years. So
But then you still have to ride.
yeah, exactly.
I did it for the Nickelback concert once, and that
Sugar-
was
Sugar Shabalala says I had to buy my phone back from criminals. It's just
Yeah,
this
I've had
country.
that too. I left a phone on an airplane, tracked it to somewhere near the airport.
Yeah.
And they said, look, your phone's broken, but we'll fix it for you and you need to pay us 1,000 Rand. So I did. I went and fetched it.
It's wild how these. I mean, this is just part of our lives. Anywhere else in the world, this would be a big story.
Yeah.
You know? Here we are. We had to wait for Ryan to tell us about his friend who negotiated. with
No,
the cops.
he tells me that story all the time, and I just find it hilarious how we can negotiate with criminals. Like, no, it's pain.
Yeah.
Like the criminals even know how bad the departments are to
Right.
go and get another SIM card or a
It's
new
all
bank
crazy,
card or
man.
a new ID or whatever.
Shut your face hole says I wasn't expecting the stabbing to death part of the story.
Sorry, I did
Yeah.
drop that in quite
You
hard.
did. She kind of didn't give us any warning or build up at all.
Damn,
Yeah.
Can we
There
get
was
the,
no trigger warning there.
can we get the aircon up in here? Yo, it's
Yeah.
What, are you
it's so
boiling?
damn hot.
Like,
in here.
well, sorry.
Okay,
No, I'm
menopausal Ryan.
Yeah,
Jeepers.
it's like a woman with what is it? I've got the hot flashes.
Hot flashes.
But you do
But,
like you
but
do
you enjoyed
need.
the concert, right? Overall.
I wanted to talk about money, but
Oh,
yes, I
sorry.
did.
Um,
Yes, all right.
just check.
Yes, I enjoyed it. Damn it.
It was superb. I mean, I'm so cranky these days. It's so difficult to. I have to think very hard about how, and I'm a happy guy, right? So I'm not. It's not like I'm walking around with a miserable face or
Hmm.
hating everything, but I'm kind of cranky. I mean, there was this brilliant. I think it's also Larry David's fault because I watched so much of him. No, but I mean, he's made me a lot more honest. And there's this brilliant clip. I hate Jimmy Fallon, but a friend sent me a clip that I reposted over the weekend of Larry David sitting there. He goes, well, he thinks his character, Larry David's rubbed off on him as a person.
Mm.
And that's exactly what I think he's done to so many of us. Because now I find myself, so in the clip, he goes, ask the old Larry if you want to go for lunch. So Fallon goes, hey, do you want to grab some lunch? So Larry David goes, all right, let's go for lunch. He said, now ask
Grudgingly.
the new Larry David for lunch. So Fallon goes, hey, do you want to go and get some lunch? He goes, no. So I'm like, I realized what a stupid, spoiled asshole I am sometimes. I got these amazing tickets, right? And I can sit right there. I can see the stage. It's fantastic. But what do? I arrive for just the last 3 acts. And then I leave halfway through the big main headliner. And a lot of people they would have come from other parts of the country. They would have parked their car. They would have driven for miles. They would have
picked an outfit.
Yeah. They would have dressed up. They would have known the words to all the songs.
I was going to say, how could you leave halfway through Maroon 5? They just
Because
have bangers. Like,
It's pure. This is so logistical and boring, but I just didn't want to get caught in traffic. And
That's the thing. And you know what else?
I've been at concerts. Like
We've been there. We've done that. I've met Adam Levine in person
Oh, wow.
at one of our concerts.
that's awesome.
So, like, he can
That was
sing to me on
2000 That was
Spotify.
2008. I remember that.
There you go.
Right.
Sure.
But
So you become a little jaded.
You do. And these 19-year-old girls, there's 3 girls sitting in
I was
front of
in
me.
grade 6.
So they were laughing because I was saying stupid and funny things the whole way through the concert, right? And I mean, I really did enjoy the parts that I saw. And then this one girl turns around and I said to her, how old are you? She's like, I'm 19. I said, and your friends? Also 19. I said, and how did you get here? She goes, well, we drove from Boksburg, not that far, but they got lost in Joburg. I was like, oh, gee, if you were my daughters, I would be a mess. And then I met these two parents at the concession stand, and they've got a 15-year-old in the crowd. They were obviously there to kind of chaperone her and everything. So they're nice parents. They're not.
Yeah.
But I said to them, oh my God, if I had a daughter, she'd be strapped to her bed until she was 30. She would never leave the house.
Only because we've been there and done that.
I've seen what happens.
Yeah, I've experienced it.
And I think of these girls that they're all walking around having the time of their lives. And obviously the chances are slim that someone's going to be a total asshole.
Yeah.
But there are still these weird guys, right? I just thought, 19-year-olds, the 15-year-old, I would be a nervous wreck. Yeah. So this is what I'm thinking while everyone else is enjoying their concert, that these girls in front of me, I'm like, how are you getting home? Yeah. You better let someone know when you're leaving. And what a cranky, weird fucking old guy. And then I'm leaving as Adam Levine's he looked like he was a little bit high. He's kicking off song number 4. I think he'd just done oh God, I can't remember. He was,
I don't even know what he would play. There's so many now. I can't even.
I was so high I hardly recognized. Fire burning in your eyes. This love has taken its toll on me. Anyway, he's doing that. And then I go, all right, guys, it's time to go. And then you can see that, like, really now? Like, we got to go. It's exactly 11 o'clock. We've got to go. We've got to meet Alfred. And, fuck.
But you know,
and
I'm listening to I'm listening to Adam Levine in the stadium behind me. But I'm so happy. Because my biggest fear is to be caught in a crowd. It's like I have you could call me all kinds of things. That's a real. I don't know what happened to me in a previous life. I must have been hacked to death by a mob or something. Some terrible shit happened to me with a crowd. Because to this day, I will not join a crowd. I will not be near a crowd. If I see like a whole lot of people, most people, when they see a whole bunch of people congregating, they want to know, what are those people doing? They join in. The average person loves that, right? I'm not saying average good or bad. I'm saying most people, when they see a big crowd of people, they go, I want to know what those people are watching, what they're doing, what they're looking at, and why they're all gathered together. Not me. I see a crowd of people, I turn the other way. Whatever's going on there, I don't want to know.
Do they still at the concerts? Do they still not allow like closed bottle drinks or whatever? Do you have to have everything in a cup?
So I didn't know about any of that because I wasn't drinking. So
but even like Powerades and Coke
cups. They got people walking around with big trays. Again, like something I just never want to do again.
Yeah.
Ever. And carry a beer box.
Yeah.
The box that you put the cans of beers in. Yeah. Beer box with like 10 open cups with like brown shit in them. Whether it was beer or it was brandy and Cokes, I don't know. But I looked at that and it's hot, obviously.
It's hot. And
it gets hot. It's like a 25
usually on the
degree,
grass in front of you.
25 degree beer. And you see these guys like knocking it back and you go,
And it just makes you want to wee, and then you've got to go and use those horrible loos.
You see, it's an age.
No,
it's purely an age. I can hear it. You would have stayed till the end.
Yeah, no. If I can think about the concerts I've been to, so I went to the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert, the Foo Fighters concert.
That was good.
And I got front row tickets, and so we would go there from like 12 p.m.
Yeah, get right up front.
As soon as like each gate opens, we go through, and so I would buy like a shitload of Powerades to throw in my bag because the first concert I went to, I was so thirsty when it was done. But if you try and go buy one, you lose your place, and you worked so hard to get there. So Foo Fighters
planned ahead. I like this. I planned ahead to get out. You planned ahead to get in.
Yeah, but you had to experience the first one or two bad ones too.
Sure.
But then, like, as each gate opens, so I only got there 12 p.m. and then you wait and wait and wait. And I think the Foo Fighters, the first act only came on at like 7 or 8. The Foo Fighters only came on from like 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
What time are you there? 12.
Till 12:01.
Plastered by then.
At that time, no, but see, I didn't even drink.
You were
back
plastered
then.
anyway. You weren't even at the concert, and you were.
It just
you
just write the whole night off because you feel so exhausted. But then it's also funny because if you get there and like 3 or 4 p.m., you see like kids are sitting against these fences like this because they peaked early.
Wow.
They like got too excited.
Oh yeah, that's always the worst thing. I saw
they're like
I saw this dude. He must have been 14, 15. He's leaning against a pillar.
Yeah,
but like direct.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
No, it happens. These poor guys, they sit there with, because they bring those backpacks and they sit there.
Yeah.
And they're like, and I was like, oh man.
So I see here that people were getting very upset, says Audrey. She was obviously there. She told us earlier how she got there. They bought water outside the entrance but couldn't take it through.
Yeah.
You can't.
That's so annoying.
You mustn't buy the stuff outside the entrance. You know that those are just panhandlers. You got to go inside, otherwise you're not going to be able to take it in.
No, but also they don't allow the bottles because they don't want you to throw it at the artists. So if you want to buy like a billion drinks to take in.
There used to be a time where people knew not to throw bottles at the artists.
You didn't have to tell them.
You didn't have to tell them, and you didn't have to take stuff away from them.
Like even if you buy the bottled drinks, they would take away the caps. So you would still have like 5 of these things with no caps because they don't want you filling it and throwing it.
I just don't.
I would just bring caps.
Just don't drink at these things. Last concert I went to, says Jonathan, was Bryan Adams at Sun City. That must have been cool. Yeah, he says he also doesn't like large crowds.
Yeah, but you see, with artists like that, you can't avoid.
I have to tell you, the sound was bloody amazing because Hugh says concerts are rubbish in general, poor facilities, expensive, too many people, etc., etc. Save your money and don't bother.
No, man.
Okay, so Hugh, normally I'd agree with you, and I think you're also grouchy and grumpy, cranky like me. But so we're brothers. But there's something about live that is just very, very. I got goosebumps, man.
Yeah.
You can't replicate that feeling sitting at home listening to it on your speakers.
Yeah, and that's
not the same.
That's the other thing. Like the one thing I loved about the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert was you could buy the concert from Johannesburg that they recorded there.
Yeah.
As a CD thing, you could like buy it online from that recording. I haven't seen any other artists that can do that.
Well,
so I still have that recording from when they were here.
Trust me, there's probably some guy selling the music straight after the concert outside the thing, but he's probably selling you bullshit.
But also on TikTok, like everyone just records it and puts it up. Like you don't miss anything.
Exactly. But there is something about being at the place, especially if it's an artist you really love. And as much as I'm sounding like an unhappy person, I thoroughly enjoy these things. Once I'm there and once I'm in it, then I totally suspend all the crankiness. And then as soon as the schedule kicks in again, then I'm ready. I'm going to go and meet the driver. And we made it. I mean, we made it out of there. A friend of mine who was stuck, she told me she only got out around 2.
Yeah.
Because it was so impossible to get Ubers or taxis.
And don't even think about going for food at that time because every drive-through that's open is packed.
No. It's a bad idea. I was in bed by 12:30, 1 o'clock. It was so fantastic.
But also parking is a whole thing because there
I was singing the songs, walking around my house. I had a shower, got into bed, and I thought,
ooh, nice and clean and fresh.
Some stupid asshole still at the concert.
Yeah. I actually went into the office yesterday and did a full 8-hour.
Look at you.
And I think it's actually a good idea because Monday doesn't sting as much.
Maybe that's a plan. And I mean, Sunday, if you have the energy. So I woke up yesterday morning. It's like, my God, it's 7:30. Don't have a hangover. I got dressed. I went to gym.
Wait, hold on.
I went to the shops.
Wait, so are we saying we should leave concerts early and work on Sundays?
This is sounding terrible. Hold on. I am. Okay, so this is, again, different strokes. You don't have to do any
I'm just saying.
Leigh-Ann is going to watch. She's going to get into this Sunday work thing. Because the anxiety for her on a Monday is so awful that she would rather work on the Sunday. She'd rather sacrifice her day off.
Sure.
She loves the feeling of not being anxious. So you're excited about today.
Well, I mean,
I'm like,
you're way ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, totally.
What are you gonna laugh at all those people hanging from Calabash?
No. Yeah, she's going to be mocking them remorselessly.
Mocking them, because they're going to be tired and like,
I'm going to be happy in traffic, happy greeting everyone. Good thing.
Look,
I'm all prepared. I've answered all my emails.
Yeah, so normally when she comes in here, she's like this.
You see, we normally have to work on Sundays for the show, but I mean, if I had the option, I would choose not to. But
are you? Is this an official complaint? Do you want to take this to HR?
No, it's no complaints. Just makes it easier coming in on a Monday morning. So I do understand.
we've got a sleep expert coming to talk to us,
Yes.
which is so cool.
I
So
saw
she's
that.
been-
I was going to bring my CPAP machine and talk.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk to her about that.
Yeah.
But and she's got unbelievable stories about somnambulism.
Ooh, and I wonder if she knows about hypnagogia.
Yes, she does.
Oh, you see.
And she'll tell us about what terrible things people have done when they are asleep
Yes.
and they don't realize that they're sleepwalking.
Oof. I mean, they're things that you see in court unfolding.
Yes.
Yes.
So Alison Ben, she was actually on with Dr. Mark the other day, and we decided, listen, because she said hi to me on the way out. I was like, we've got to talk to you, because within like a minute of speaking to her, she had the most unbelievable stories.
I thought you were going to say she'd put you to sleep.
No, well, she probably could do that too. I don't know what her powers are. I always get nervous. It's so stupid. I always get nervous around like people who practice anything so specialized that you think they have special powers, you know.
And that they can see right through you.
Yeah, they can tell how much you slept or how little you slept. And she's got a trained eye. She can like scan you like a science fiction machine and then go, well, you had 8.3 hours of sleep. You slept well last night, didn't you? That kind of thing.
I got into a whole conversation with Dr. Mark when he was doing a show with Alison the other day.
Yeah.
And he basically said, because I told him I barely sleep in the week because I'm up so early and I stay up quite late. It's a bad habit, but I catch up on the weekends. And he's like, Ryan, there's no catching up. He's like, if you don't sleep, the damage is done. There's no catching up on the weekend.
I remember seeing once if you study through the night as a student, which we all did, it takes 3 weeks to catch up that one night.
Sure.
Well, she's going to be telling us all the stuff. I'm just looking at it now. Yeah. Don't you yawn. We got Dr. Hanan on too this morning. Yes. So Dr. Alison Bentley later on, the sleep expert. She's going to be fun to talk to. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Hanan, let's see what we're doing with him quickly. I have to check the notes because I don't know a damn thing about what happens on the show unless it's written in front of me. So we're going to talk to him. Oh, yeah, we got this anonymous email about grief.
Sure.
You give me grief. No, not that kind of grief. Not that kind of grief, but like actual grief if someone dies.
Sure.
It was so funny. The lead singer from Keen, I don't know what his name is, but I used to. He did his gap year in South Africa when he was a student or when he just finished school. He came here on his gap year, and guess where he went? Peter Maritzburg.
Ooh, Peter Maritzburg.
I'm like,
if you're going to come to South Africa, you don't go to Maritzburg for a whole year.
I mean, no wonder he didn't come back for a long time. Maritzburg, you got some explaining to do.
I was remembering when you said gap year, I was remembering what was that song, Gap Year? And then I chanted Avra.
Chanted Avra. No. Yep, you are old, Gareth, a science fiction machine. No, but you know what I mean? When people used to scan, I think it was in, I don't know, one of those star something or another.
Star Trek or something.
Yeah, they would scan someone with this device, like a remote control. And the person and then it would say, you have stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, I'm so sorry, Uhuru or Luru or whatever your name is. You're going to die this week. Oh, shit. Is there anything I can do? Nope.
I remember watching a soapy once, and the guy was in hospital.
Yeah.
And they had a tube connected to him. You know, like a plastic, just a normal plastic tube that you could use as a siphon or for a bong or whatever. And inside it were Christmas lights. And it was going.
Some science fiction they didn't put enough effort into. Yeah. All right. So here's Sanette says, I don't like people in singles, groups, or crowds, but I have zero problem with concerts. I just ignore everybody. I don't know. Listen, I think there are some people who really like a crowd and there's some people who don't.
Yeah.
And there's some people who get swept up in a crowd and some people who just, when a crowd is coming, they just want to get the hell away from there. You know which one I am.
Yeah, that's the thing with concerts is you can't avoid it. Like if you're gonna be in the front, you're gonna be in the
would love. I was fantasizing about what I would do when I'm terribly rich one day, but like super fuck off rich. I'm gonna book 10 of my favorite artists and then bring them on stage. They do a song and then I literally press skip and the next artist comes on straight away on a revolving stage and then they're on. And I press skip and it goes back or it goes forward. And these 10 people, they must just be ready to play whatever song I want. Just me on a big chair in the middle of the stadium. Maybe a few people who I like, but it won't even be near me. They'll be in another part of the stadium.
Sure.
And they can watch. And I'll do that. 10 bands skip and the stage turns and then it's suddenly another artist. Oh, this is fun. Let's do it again. And then I can make them repeat a song. If I really liked the song, they could do it 3 times. I'll be like, go back, do it again. And then they'll do it again. And then I'll pay them a lot of money, but it would be amazing. No one will no one's filming it. None of that stuff.
Just for you.
I won't embarrass the band if like I didn't like their song and I stopped their song halfway through and I go, you guys take a break.
I thought you were going to pull like an Idols move, like how you used to, and be like, hey, listen.
No, I don't. These are professional musicians. They were all terrific on Saturday. I don't know any more than they do. They're the most experienced people in the place.
Mm.
By the way, does Randall go to concerts?
Yeah. He and I went to Pet Shop Boys, which was fantastic.
Dari went to the movie the other day.
So Dari was talking. She was there as well. We went to Durban. There were only about 400 or 500 of us. It was embarrassing because it was not sold out at all.
Mm.
So we were right at the front, like you said, because there was hardly anyone there.
Sure.
So it was easy. If you lined everyone else, we would have been a line at the front of the place. If you lined us up, there were that few people. But it was amazing. They got dressed up in some new outfit for every song. We knew all the songs. We were standing almost in arm's length distance from these guys. It was fantastic. Now that was a good concert because there was no one else there.
Yeah.
People ruined the concert for me.
And they're probably like, yo, we have 500 people.
No.
Let's go.
So Tracy says Cape Town Stadium has waxed when it comes to live events. Park in town, take a free 10-minute My City bus to the stadium. When it's done, do the same. You're home within an hour. That's excellent. That's efficient.
I always said Cape Townians like struggled to get there because they just get too stoned halfway. So some of them just end up missing it.
I think that's it. Okay, so apparently, let's look at this quickly. Apparently, the Global Citizen Festival set the bar high. I enjoyed it, but just not the drama that happened afterwards. That was the one. I was trying to think which concert it was where people were mugged.
At petrol stations and
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, that was the Global Citizen Festival. Yeah, I remember that.
But Global Citizen, didn't you also have to be chosen? You couldn't buy tickets. You had to sign up and you were chosen.
You were chosen to be robbed from.
Oh. Yeah, but Jay-Z was there. And I think Beyonce, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a huge deal. It was when does Jay-Z come out anyway? Unless it's like
I gave that one a skip.
I signed up. I wasn't chosen.
You don't have to go to everything. You really don't have to go to everything. Sometimes, be grateful for the little thing.
Do you like live performances at bars?
No.
Because that's not really a big crowdy thing, but it's like...
Nah. I mean, there are sometimes you'll hear someone playing and you think, wow.
Like, did you ever go to like a Rumors Lounge where they had all these live bands? They don't really do it much now, but...
I enjoy that, but that's because of my... it's kind of in my blood. My father was a performer.
Oh, wow.
And an alcoholic.
Yes.
That's also in your blood.
Basically him.
You're basically him.
Yeah. Look, if things go according to plan, I've only got about 3 or 4 years left in me.
All right, it's past. Let's check out some sport. Let's get into the important things that happened over the weekend. Ben gave us a bit of a preview for this on Friday. So, Ryan, what results do you have for us? Let's go.
Cool. So let's kick off with the cricket SA20. So the Joburg Super Kings managed a massive win over the Durban Super Giants, and MI Cape Town lost to Pretoria Capitals. So here are your top 4 for the playoffs, and it is number 1, Durban Super Giants. 2, we have the Sunrisers, Eastern Cape.
Okay.
3, the Par Royals, and 4, the Joburg Super Kings. Okay.
All right. Now you know. That's all we've got for you in cricket.
Yeah,
all right.
That's cricket. That's all we got. Then Six Nations Rugby. Ireland beat France 38-17. England beat Italy 27-24. And Scotland beat Wales 27-26. Okay. Getting into football, we had Premier League. Premier League's back. I had a few messages over the weekend because there were a few upsets. And yeah, let's just get into it. Everton drew with Spurs 2-2. Newcastle drew with Luton Town 4-4.
So far, I'm not upset. Go on.
Yeah. Aston Villa beats Sheffield United 5-0. Manchester United actually came out on top of West Ham 3-0, surprisingly. So I had messages from those fans because Chelsea lost to Wolves 4-2.
Right.
And that's my team. And Arsenal beat Liverpool 3-1. So the Liverpool
So where's the
fans
upset?
Well, Chelsea losing, because everyone knows I'm a big Chelsea fan. I got messages
So
from a lot of the
you
fans
were
of the show.
upset.
And no, but also the Liverpool fans, because they gave Chelsea a walloping last week. And then we get into AFCON. AFCON is very exciting this week. Nigeria.
You put some money on Bafana, right?
I did, because I was like, you know what? They're gonna do it again. We
Uh-huh.
got to back it, because now
And
they were in the quarters.
You would have been right, but
they didn't win in the 90 minutes.
so it was an extra time.
Yes.
So you didn't get paid.
No.
Oh.
Is that how that works?
Well, he didn't bet on extra time.
Oh.
So when you place your bet, you got to go into your bet, because I just bet a win, and the win is a standard 90 minutes. There are more bets if you want an overall win, but the odds are lower, because then you're expecting extra time. But I mean, these are the things you just have to consider when placing your bets.
Right.
But Nigeria beat Angola 1-0. DR Congo came out on top 3-1 to Guinea. And Mali beat Ivory Coast 2-1. And of course, we drew with Cape Verde, but came out on top with penalties. 2-0. So that's very cool. So in the semis, which is on Wednesday, we have Nigeria versus South Africa. And on Thursday, we have Ivory Coast versus DR Congo. So that's what you have to look forward to.
Very good.
Didn't expect that. That's good.
No, Bafana, guys, we must wear the shirts. We must do everything we did for the Rugby World
They
Cup.
must win it. They must win it first.
They must win it first?
Yeah. Not worried. No, I'm not going to be. I'm not falling for that stuff. We will be fans, but you bring home something.
Right.
I went third and fourth and fifth.
I read
place.
somewhere that they might be guaranteed like 50 million, which is great.
Well,
not into
back.
semis. Just give me fully erect.
You have to go all the way to the final and win it and bring back silverware.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, it's nothing. We don't care.
Of course.
And someone says here, I saw a clip of Tracy Chapman with Luke Combs at the Grammys. They did Fast Car. Brilliant.
Yeah, because
have the Grammys this weekend?
Yeah.
Who watches the Grammys? But thank you, Audrey. That's good to know.
I saw Tracy Chapman live years ago, and I stood in the rain, and she carried on performing.
That must have been
in the rain. That was amazing. Yeah.
But it's only because Luke Combs re-recorded Fast Car. But it's funny because obviously all the people, I don't want to say my age, but like a little younger than me, so who are in their teens now, they've never heard Fast Car before.
Yeah,
so they heard Luke Combs' version. They're like, wow, what an amazing song.
Oh,
that irritates me because when I was a teenager,
all right, fuck them, all right.
When I was a teenager, I knew songs from the Beatles and from before I was born.
Right.
There's no excuse. It's like watching on.
Look at how angry she gets.
Watching on TikTok.
I thought I was cranky.
These kids who
there's no excuse.
Kids who record themselves their reactions to listening to a song for the first time. I'm like, oh.
No, I've also seen those. But I mean, now with TikTok with their music thing, they can't really do that anymore. But it's
funny. So that we spoke about on Friday. But it really irritates you, huh?
No, it really does, because if you're going to enjoy music, you need to know about music
from the source,
from the beginning.
I played Rick James, and somebody said to me a while ago, they're like, that's that song, Can't Touch This by MC Hammer. I was like, no, it's Rick James. They were like, why are you being so pedantic? Whether I think it's MC Hammer or Rick James, there's so many songs that you could stretch back to the original.
Yeah.
But most people don't care. They know their version. It's fine. Luke Combs. Go with Luke Combs.
It was a good cover. I enjoyed
Beautiful song. What it is it's testament to the fact that Fast Car is such a beautifully written song.
Yeah.
And it is. So well done.
I wouldn't waste my time watching the Grammys. Trevor was hosting it.
Okay, well then maybe I'll watch it. I
wonder what prevents the measures they had from a slap.
I wouldn't mind seeing Tracy Chapman.
Yeah, Tracy Chapman
doing that song with Luke Combs. I'm glad you told me about that. I might watch it. So people are telling me there are two things I need to watch.
Mm.
The one is it's a series called, I don't know, victory or triumph or some or
It's like a Roman Empire thing.
I don't know. They tell it. I've got to look it up today. And the other one is the Saltburn.
Yes.
Oh yes.
I haven't seen Saltburn, and
Yeah.
everybody's saying you've got to see this movie.
Yeah.
How do we watch it here?
It's on Netflix, but it's brought Sophie Ellis-Bextor back. Her song "Murder on the Dance Floor" is now in the top 10.
Wow.
And
again, these people have never heard it.
They've never heard it, and it was in the final scene of the movie. It was in the scene of
Leanne's going to blow her top. She's going to go mad. What do you mean you haven't heard it? There's no excuse.
No, Sophie Ellis-Bextor's back on tour, guys.
Unacceptable.
So she's back, huh?
She's back.
I will not tolerate the deviance.
This is another reason why, like, the music from TikTok disappearing is such a horrible thing, because now artists like that, I mean, because now everyone started making videos with that song, and it got back into the top 10 because it was on TikTok.
Tyler, South African artist, won a Grammy.
Oh, did she win?
Yeah.
I know she was there. She flew her
won last
parents
night.
in.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Good. Okay, well then maybe we'll watch this.
Yeah.
But I've got to see the Saltburn. I've got to see the Grammy performance with Tracy Chapman. And I cannot remember the name of this series, but I'll check with this friend of mine. He said I must watch it. I've got so much
to do. I mean, we might as well just go now.
Guys, we're going to have to call the show off early.
Gotta watch stuff.
There's no time. There's no time. All right, we get to Dr. Hanan in a second or two. So Ryan tells me people are walking around with the Apple Vision Pro goggles.
Yes.
They're walking around. They're going into public places and on public transport wearing these things. People they've lost their minds.
No, my whole thing is, right, so I think they finally got delivered this. So it was announced a couple of weeks ago, but I think
if you placed
prototypes have dropped.
Yeah, if you placed a pre-order,
yes,
they would have delivered them to you this last couple of days.
So
what are you seeing when you look through them?
Well, so this is the thing, right?
They're
so
VR goggles.
I've got a video of it, but it basically they're $3,500, so it's almost 60,000 rand kind of deal. And so you can basically type and control and like have dashboards. Gareth, if you check it, there's a video there showing the functionality of it.
Okay, let's have a look.
Have a look at what this thing can do. It's quite impressive, actually.
All right, so here it is. This is Apple Vision Pro on Brain.
So here's the functionality.
Okay, so
all right, this is officially a dream come true, right? We got the NBA dashboard over here. I'm watching the NBA game. Let's go Heat, right? I can just grab the corner, make it smaller, but then I can also make it huge. Like, look how big I can make this thing. And it feels real. Like, it feels like it's in my space. Like, look, half my dog is not even showing up. What's up, Archie? I'm walking through here. I'm going over here to grab this, right? Like, it just feels real. I got Twitter over there in the corner that I can just look at and then just swipe through. Like, it knows that I'm looking at it. Of course, everything is Vision Pro, Vision Pro, Vision Pro. Tap this. I can go to Safari if I want to. Click that open. Grab this. Move it behind me, maybe.
Oh, boy.
So it's not in my way of anything. Now I'm on YouTube. Let's pause that. Let me go back to the game. Press play. It's just amazing. It's amazing.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. Look, I would trip over cats and
the poor you
smash
saw that
my glass into the
you
wall.
saw that poor dog is like, I already get so little of your attention. Here goes my life.
Now I'm in front of your glasses.
Cats have just figured out to sit in front of the TV to get our attention.
Oh my God. Oh, well, this is the end. There are going to be some people you'll never see again. Just say goodbye to your dumbest friends.
You can't use it in this country, surely. That thing will get robbed off you.
Yeah, you wouldn't use it.
Because I mean, what I'm saying is like this.
So he's got all these screens going. I mean, like, we need more screens. So he's sitting there and he's walking around. He's got these screens on his Vision Pro.
Yeah.
And you could see half the background. It's like fades in and out. And then his dog looks at him like, oh God, this is terrible. Are you going to remember to feed me or I'm going to die like a pile of bones in the corner? And you just know there are some people who will never leave their house again.
Yeah, but
there are going to be some, like those gamer types who wear like nappies and don't ever turn their back on the game. Those people are going to be sucked into this That's it.
So there's a few flaws with it, right? Because there was a popular YouTuber, he put out a video, Casey Neistat, he's one of my favorites. And he was on the train and he was trying to work Vision Pro. But the thing is, what it does is it locks onto a surface, so like a window or a wall. And when the train moves, it just struggles to lock onto, because even on the window, it's got like moving pieces. So it struggles to actually focus on something like that. But I'm just thinking, this is going to be so stupid. Is everyone just going to be typing in mid-air now?
Yeah.
Like, is this the future?
They're gonna look
Well,
like
I mean,
they're all crazy and high.
We wanted it. We made movies of people crazily putting their hands up in the air, moving screens, imaginary screens around. But we've been having it in our imaginations.
He also did say that this is going to be the worst Vision Pro goggles that they ever make, because obviously they're going to try and eventually get it to, I'm assuming, a sunglasses form, or like one of those things you put on your eyes that you can just.
I want a monocle. I've told.
A digital monocle.
Yes, I want a monocle. That's all I'll be prepared to settle for.
You have to close the other eye to focus.
Yes.
Oh, so the other part's imagination.
That's what I'm going to do.
Very nice.
Get me a monocle and we'll talk. All right, let's turn our attention to the great Dr. Hanan, who is luckily available to us this morning. The man is very busy. Hey, Doc, how are you?
Hey, guys. I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
Fantastic. How many people did you talk out of doing stupid stuff last week? Have you got a tally on that?
Yeah, I've got a board of lives that I've saved.
Yeah, I reckon you should have. I think about it. This mental health thing is such a big issue these days. Don't you feel like people are stepping on your territory? When you studied this stuff and you started your practice, it wasn't such a big deal. Now everyone thinks they're a mental health coach, and some of them are not qualified. And there's pop psychology happening left, right, and center. You've got idiots like me saying, "Oh well, I think this," and using terms from psychology that I don't entirely understand. Does it irritate you ever?
Well, it doesn't irritate me. It just makes me feel kind of concerned, because there's so much information out there. And I always tell people, don't rely on your mechanic to tell you what's wrong with your heart, and don't rely on your cardiologist to tell you what's wrong with your car. And many people are leaning on other people that have no experience and no knowledge about what emotions are, how to deal with life, what triggers you, how to manage it, what are behaviors, what is the physiological state, how does it affect the rest of your life patterns, etc., 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 and they're giving you advice and you're taking them as gospel. So that's why my practice is so full, because people are taking their car to a cardiologist and they come back to get it fixed. So unfortunately, just be wary of the advice that you get.
No, I thought it was just an observation, because I hear from so many people now who they seem to think that they've got some expertise because they've watched a Dr. Phil episode, or they read a fiction book, and in the fiction book there's a psychologist, and they suddenly start thinking they know something.
Absolutely. Like you think just because you felt sad before, or you've had anxiety before, now you're an expert in dispelling information. Or giving out information. When it's not true. It's like saying, I've had my car broken down before, now I know how to fix yours. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, well, I want us to talk about that situation. We just spoke to Ryan about it some other time, because it's worth getting into the bones of how technology is changing the way that we interact with each other and the world, and what that could mean for our psychology. I mean, we are still apes. We're still primates, right? And we only climb down from the trees in a space of time that, in geological time is nothing. We develop so slowly and evolutionarily that it takes generations for new habits and behaviors to develop. And I wonder about things like these vision goggles and what that's going to do for people or do to them.
That and even something else that I was watching this weekend, where a famous TikToker has had like this public breakdown, this psychotic meltdown over a week's period. And he's now in a mental care facility, and he's still making TikToks every day.
Oh my God.
From his gown.
Take that phone away from him.
Yeah. And a psychologist was, talking about it and saying, how does he still have access to his phone? He shouldn't be in this world at all.
When it comes to technology, the human brain likes to adapt to consistent things, but because technology is constantly changing, I mean, give her these days an 11-year-old an iPhone 1 and they don't know what to do with it. They actually think it's like a piece of brick. So technology changes so fast that the brain doesn't have time to adapt. So the technology today is going to be very different to the technology in 6 months' time. Think what ChatGPT has done to us,
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. All right, so Doc, we've got this email, and this is a depressing thing for a Monday, but people need help with stuff like this, and all of us are at some point going to need this kind of help. So, anonymous email: my mom passed away last year. She was sick, didn't expect it to happen at all. I live in another country, and I couldn't go to her funeral due to financial reasons. I had to watch my own mom's funeral online. Oh my God.
Man.
I struggled daily. I last saw her in 2018. I spoke to her almost daily. It kills me that I couldn't say goodbye. When I'm at work, it hits me the hardest. I cry and I feel very, very sad. When I'm with my wife and my kids, I feel a bit better, but it's still heartbreaking. I had to take an opportunity overseas as there wasn't much for me and my family in South Africa, and I couldn't say no. It caused me to not see my parents for years, and my dad is still there. Please give me some advice on how to cope with this. Anonymous.
Yeah. So let's define what loss is, and then I'll give you advice on what you got to do. Loss is when my world turns from A to B and my brain hasn't adjusted to the new reality. So almost think of yourself as like, let's say, think of a circle and a chunk gets removed from your world. And now there's a vacuum and your brain goes, I don't know what to do with this loss. I don't know what to do with this vacuum. And that's what we call grief. And grief is divided into many, many different emotions you could feel. Sad, you can feel angry, you can feel frustrated, you can feel guilty. In your case, feeling guilty for not being there when your mom passed away. And I always tell people, you have to marry the reality of what it is as opposed to marry the fantasy of what you wish it was. In other words, we can easily live in the past and live in the what ifs, but living in the what ifs is just going to get you stuck. So there's a whole school of psychology that says in order to deal with life, you got to go back and unpack and repack and understand and repattern and understand and repack and understand and repack. I don't subscribe to that school. My belief is this is where you're at. Now you got to fill in that vacuum with healthy things. You got to move forward. You got to live your life to the fullest. So to this particular email, I would say, would your mother want you to lie in bed, cover your head with a duvet and wish for something different? Well, I can tell you, even if she did, she didn't, you are going to eventually get out of bed and you're going to have to deal with the same thing. You have to move on. But there's a big difference between filling in the vacuum with healthy versus unhealthy things. Unhealthy things are quick fixes. So people fill in the gap with drugs and alcohol and carbs and sugars and fats and sex and gambling and sleep. And the problem with filling that gap or that vacuum with those quick fix things is that they're not for the long term. You can't do drugs forever. You can't, sleep forever.
Look how you've upset Leigh-Ann now. Those are all the things she does every weekend to try and cope.
What more do I have?
What are you going to do without gambling and drugs?
All the sex.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to give you an alternative, Leigh-Ann. So there's other things that you can do. Apart from all that stuff, there's healthy things. And the way we define healthy things are things that you can do for the rest of your life. So what can you do for the rest of your life? Well, you can pick up a hobby. How about friendships? How about going to the gym? How about getting good routine? I know. Gross.
Gym?
Gross. Gross. I know.
How about eating things that are bad for you? How about cakes?
Yeah, it's all there. Sugar, overeating.
Right. So again, the cost of that is that you do it, you feel really good, but then an hour later, a day later, you feel really bad. So you want to do things that sustain you. So develop good friendships, engage with family members. I know this emailer has got children, or perhaps I don't know if she has got children, but engage with your children. Create a wonderful relationship with your partner. Start living a life. Your dad is still around, so engage with your dad. Maybe support him. Get into good routine. You live your life as if your mom was here and said to you, I want you to live the fullest and the most meaningful and purposeful life that you can, even when I'm not here. Now, what will happen is, of course, we don't want to. We want to cover our head with a duvet. But I ask you to do this. Behavior first, emotion second. We don't feel like it and then do it. How many times have we said this on the show? We don't feel like it and then we do it. We do it and we do it and we do it and we do it, and then the feelings catch up. So the first time you're going to fill your life up with your kids and your friends and good routine and good habits, it's going to feel really bad. But you're going to do it again and again and again and again and again until you feel really good.
Right.
I will say one more thing about a loss. And this is for those of you who have been through a tragic loss, you could really relate. When you go through a loss, it's like the universe now gives you a 20-kilogram sack of potatoes to carry for the rest of your life. And there's no ways of putting it down, but you learn to carry it differently. You learn to carry it in a way that's working for you. You learn to carry it in a much more palatable way. And some days, oh my God, my back hurts. And some days, I can manage it. But when you go through such a loss, there's no leaving it. There's no dropping it. There's no managing it to the point where it doesn't exist or I'm happy because of it. That is your scar to bear. You've had good times with this person, and the cost of those memories, the cost of those meaningful interactions is carrying the sack of potatoes for the rest of your life. You just got to learn to carry it different.
Such a good way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, so many times we're taught to work through things and get over things. And you obviously haven't worked hard enough to work through this and get over it and rise above it. But that's a lot of it you just have to carry. And whether it's a relationship that's gone bad, you carry that sack of potatoes, but you've also learned from it and you're able to help other people because of it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Doc. Well, thank you. We'll talk a little bit about how scary the future could be for us if technology is the only place that we engage in the world. It scares the hell out of me that there are people who are already doing this. I mean, I sometimes feel like I want to throw my phone against the wall because I'm like, why am I checking every notification? I don't need to be doing this.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
If you don't do it, and again, behavior comes first, right? So do the thing, like put your phone away for an hour.
Yes.
Then for 2 hours. Then eventually no one can get hold of you and you become completely disconnected from work. But start with an hour. Just start with an hour.
An hour is long. Jeez.
I know.
Start with 10 minutes.
How many times have you been away maybe for the weekend and you didn't have signal and you came back on Monday and the sun still came up and your friends were still your friends?
Right.
And everything, everything remains normal. The world doesn't need you. I think, Gareth, you put it up on Instagram or I saw it somewhere where it's like a picture of the planet Earth with you and a picture of planet Earth without you. And it's the same picture.
Right.
We're not that important. If we respond to the emails the next day, we'll be okay.
What are you, the Pope in Rome that you need to have your phone with you the whole time? Who's trying to get hold of you at 3 a.m? What are you going to rescue and save the princess from the dragon? Please. You're an accountant. You're an accountant in an office in Santon. Calm the fuck down.
You're not that
Margaret.
Oh, right. Like, who's looking for you? What do you think you're Conan the Barbarian when the fucking hordes attack across the river? You're going to be standing there with your sword? Please. Get dressed. Go. You got a job in logistics. Calm down.
We all think we're like the extra special people. The world is waiting for us to press the green or the red button. And if I'm not there, the world ends.
Well, it's like main character syndrome, where you think that you're the main character.
The staring.
Yeah, the staring. Get out of it. You're not important.
You're not even backstage. You're not even backstage doing the lighting. You're nothing. Yeah, for sure.
Are you kidding? Joe Biden isn't even that important, and he's the president of the United States. He doesn't know where he is half the time. He woke up this morning thinking he was an orange.
And I'll say, I know we run out of time, but I'll say one thing. That's why going out into nature is so important, because you realize how insignificant you are. When you're in front of a massive mountain, when you're in front of a massive ocean, you realize that the universe actually does not care about the fact that you didn't have lunch or you didn't have quinoa or you replace your carbs for something else. No one cares.
Nobody cares. That's our lesson for this morning. All right, everybody. That's great. Tk you, Doc. We'll chat to you in a week.
Cheers.
All right. So you've got to drop all those bad habits. Oh my God! What are you going to do with your life?
Am I considered an old horse?
Yeah, I think you can learn new tricks. We'll try and train you out of the bad ones. All right. When we come back, we'll have, among other things, we're going to speak to Dr. Alison Bentley. She's terrific. Talk a little bit about sleep, got some news stories, and a bunch of other cool stuff. Stick around. All of that and more on the way.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
If you are seeing this for the first time, you're too late. Probably for the next couple of years, because every Toyota fan
This is probably this is the one to have.
It's on the waiting list. I'm sure this, or there's the 70 series.
Yeah.
Received its first updates in how long, and it's getting that 2.8 GD6 diesel from the Hilux and Fortuner. So
the 70 series, those are the Buckies, right? Those are like
the old ones had a 4.2 non-turbo diesel, which was pop.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be a big upgrade for guys, and I think it's going to make the car even more popular than it already is.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
All right. Well, we just chased Ryan out of the studio because he was talking such nonsense about dream analysis. But we are going to get into sleep this morning, which I think is such an important thing. And we thought Monday, not only because it suits our guest, because she happened to have some time this Monday, which we're delighted about, but also because people come out of the weekend, they haven't rested properly, and then they're exhausted for the whole week, and they do crap work, and they are horrible to be around, and it's their fault. It's your fault, Leigh-Ann.
And then it happens again the next weekend.
So we've got Dr. Alison Bentley here. How are you, Doc?
Oh, good morning. I'm well, thanks.
It's nice to see you. You've spent a lot of time in our studio recently, and we love having you here. So I hope
it's a great pleasure.
I hope you're happy to be back with us. I'm very happy to see you because sleep is obviously something which it's become trendy to talk about again. I wonder how much of that has to do with Arianna Huffington, who wrote that book, which was a bestseller, and she's not a sleep specialist or anything. She's the famous media person with a terrible accent, it has to be said.
Yeah.
Hello, it's me, Arianna Huffington, tell you to go to sleep. Anyway, she wrote that book and it went far and wide, and it suddenly became trendy to think about sleep because now everyone is trying to be as optimal as possible, right? So
and things like sleep apnea weren't a thing on people's radars before, and now everyone knows what it is.
Well,
they didn't know what it was a few years ago.
We've got to get into some of the stories that you told me in brief. I mean, you hinted at this, you gleaned some of these topics when we were last talking in the passage here. I thought we've got to have you on for an hour and we could talk about this stuff. But do you agree that it's become acceptable and cool and interesting, and people are taking a huge amount of time out of their day to think about getting the right amount of sleep, what kind of sleep, that sort of stuff? So it's made the stuff that you've spent your whole life working on, suddenly all the rest of us have caught up.
Yep, apparently. I mean, certainly when we started doing sleep, 30 years ago, so I was doing sleep medicine in 1991, and it was kind of, I was the only person doing anything.
Did they think you were a
interesting.
bit cookie to do that back
Well,
then?
people were kind of going like, why are you doing sleep? Why don't you
Yeah.
do like something that earns money, like ear, nose and throat surgery or ophthalmology or something
Yes.
like that, you know? And it was, and I mean, I got into sleep by accident because I didn't want to do hypertension clinic. I mean, that's literally the reason.
Right.
But when I got into sleep and started reading it, I went, this is like really amazing, you know, like really, really interesting stuff. So,
Well, how much time are we? You say half your life, maybe sleeping.
well, it's, you know, it's a third of your life. It's supposed to be a third of your life. But I
Okay.
think one of the biggest myths about sleep is that normal is 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Like that is normal. I mean, if you have your blood taken, no one goes, your sodium has to be 152. Do you know what I mean? Like there isn't
No.
a normal, there's a range. Everybody has a range of everything. So sleep has a range.
Well,
And-
it was Churchill who said 8 hours of sleep is
Yep.
good enough. No, sorry, he said 6 hours of
hours
sleep is
sleep.
good enough for a man,
but then he napped.
7 for a woman, and 8 for a fool. Which means women to him were closer to fools.
Close to full than
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, but I mean, Margaret Thatcher famously had very little sleep. So did Napoleon. And there are lots of people who can't sleep more than 4 or 5 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just how they're genetically made.
Yeah.
Usually familial. So usually there's a father or a mom who also doesn't sleep a lot. But I mean, we're looking at what sleep actually is for. And that is it's servicing this car. You know, that's
Right.
the job. Is
That's where you go into maintenance every night.
Absolutely.
You
You
get
do.
put in the pits,
Mm.
and then they work on.
Everything works, you know, the stuff works in the body and the stuff works in the brain. And so that you wake up the next morning ready for the day. And if you manage to get through your day well, without, I mean, don't talk like just getting through the day, but that you well during the day, you function well, then you've had enough sleep. And
Right.
the number doesn't really matter that much as long as the daytime function is good.
All right, so let's just talk about what happens during sleep. You've spent years studying this stuff. Why do we need to go to sleep in order for our bodies to repair themselves? Can't they just do that while we're on the go?
No, because it's like driving a car. I mean, if you can't service the car while you're driving it, you kind of need to take it in and make it stop driving and actually take the parts apart.
It's hopeless. Is there a way out
do
of
it
this conundrum? Is there a way we could spend that time better?
No,
No.
there actually isn't. I mean, and I think we know that now. And I think you talk about like why it's suddenly become trendy is because again, in the 90s when we were doing this and we were looking at people with sleep apnea and they were trying to die in the middle of the night. And there was a sense that people wouldn't listen, that medical aids wouldn't listen, that the public wouldn't listen, that doctors wouldn't listen. And we kind of went, we've got to find a way this kills you. Otherwise
they won't take it
they're not going
seriously.
to take it seriously. Now we know how it kills you. So I think that's the change that's happened. It's become mainstream in cardiology, for example.
That's it. Yeah.
It's become mainstream so shift work has gradually become more and more important as companies are trying to find an extra edge to make money. Like, how do we do this? So, you know, companies start putting in an extra shift, for example, and finding that profits go down and they kind of go, I don't know why that happens. And then went, because actually the morning shift is spending, instead of working on new stuff, is spending 2 or 3 hours fixing the mistakes from the night shift. You know, that kind of craziness. So I think it has gained more kind of traction, if you like. But the thing about, so I mean, you asked the question like, why can't we do it when we're awake? Well, firstly, because one of the things we do is produce all the growth hormone that we do the whole day is in the first hour of sleep. And then when we produce that growth hormone, there's kind of this cascade that happens through the body, all the growth factors and all insulin growth factor, and this happens and blah, blah, blah. And it all goes through and then everything kind of gets fixed in a physical kind of sense. When we go into REM sleep is amazing. So what REM sleep does is disconnect the brain from the body completely. So sensation is kind of cut off.
Sure.
I mean, you can't really feel anything unless you have pain that's at pain tolerance. Then that'll break through. But you can't feel anything and you're totally paralyzed. So
like anesthetic.
So the brain kind of gets to have this freedom that it never, ever has, because everything the brain does when you're awake, there are consequences to that. But in REM sleep, there are no consequences at all. And so it just plays.
What's running things? The autonomic system?
So yeah, the autonomic
brainstem?
So yeah, in REM sleep, you're often a bit like a lizard. So I mean, if you're in a very hot environment, your body temperature kind of goes up in REM sleep because you can't manage it well. We watch the heart rate go a little bit wonky. We watch the breathing go a little bit wonky during REM sleep. If you have apnea, it's much, much worse in REM sleep because it's not controlled well. The brain's busy doing other stuff. It kind of just keeps everything, kind of almost says like to the environment, keep everything stable because I'm busy.
Yeah.
Right. I'm busy.
Right.
And that's when the flushing of the brain happens. So, flushing out of toxins. So there's some work talking about, things that collect in the brain for Alzheimer's, for example. So that protein that collects, that there is some link towards sleep, that if you don't have a decent sleep and have that flushing of that protein out, then it starts accumulating.
Right.
So, there's this refuse
You end up
system,
talking shit.
refuse collection that happens during REM sleep. Yeah. And then this memory consolidation that happens and dreams that happen, whatever those are, so.
You mentioned that that's almost like defragmenting the hard drive.
Well, it can be.
Yeah,
I mean, it
it
certainly
probably
can be.
is.
So I think the theories of dreams range from Freud, where every elephant, eagle, fish, flying, whatever, is of huge importance to your subconscious.
But Freud also is convinced that everything was sexual.
It was as
Everything.
well.
Yeah.
To really a very much biological thing, which is just defragging the computer. Like the
Right.
brain is looking, it's got memories to consolidate, but to do that, it has to open all the files and go, where does this memory fit and how do I connect it to other things? It's got to open everything up. And so that's why we get these strange dreams that are just really random, possibly. So I'm not going to on air go, they're all random and there's nothing important. But I mean, lots of people don't ever dream. I mean, if you're a good sleeper, you don't dream a lot. And then you kind of go, so what is my subconscious telling my conscious then? It's bored. Like, what? There's nothing.
No, absolutely.
And
sometimes you have very lucid dreams, though.
Yeah.
Leigh-Ann has the
I
most
really do.
insanely intense dreams.
And since high school as well, something that was called, to me, it was known as hypnagogia, where I'm awake, my eyes are open, but I'm seeing things, but really realistic. For instance, physically seeing that there is no toilet and I walk to go and find another toilet because I believe it's not there. Physically seeing a man on a horse on my bed. I've injured myself running away from things and, I've scrubbed floors in the middle of the night.
So that kind of thing, because this came up in our very brief conversation the other day, somnambulism and sleepwalking and people who have these extraordinary experiences while they're basically unconscious.
Yeah. So there are two main types of the kind of weird things that happen at night. They're called parasomnias as a group. But there's two groups, and one come out of this physical restorative sleep, and the other one the others come out of REM sleep or the dreaming kind of sleep. So what you describe is, so if we look at REM sleep, it has these components, eye movements, obviously, because that's the rapid eye movements, and they're very distinctive when you see them on an EEG, very distinctive. So there's eye movements, there's sleep, there's paralysis, and there's dreams. And what should happen is they should all be coordinated to switch on together and coordinated to switch off. And every so often it doesn't work. So
it's like someone didn't flip all the switches.
Yes, like there's one main switch, but lots of little switches, and sometimes it doesn't really work. So what you describe is that you wake up. So the wake up happens, the eyes stop, the paralysis stops, but the dream doesn't, and it just carries on a little bit.
Okay.
I had a patient with narcolepsy, which is a disorder of REM sleep, and that happens. So REM sleep happens much faster than it does. And she would say she knew she was about to fall asleep because she saw the Irish lady. I went, what do you mean the Irish lady? She goes, there's this tall lady with red hair and a green dress and green eyes, and I call her the Irish lady. And so it was a dream, but she knew she was still awake, but she could see this lady.
My God.
But it explains sleep paralysis as well. So some people wake up and they're wide awake when they can't move.
Yeah,
and they're just
I've had that too. It's almost, in the alternative world, you would say it felt like a ghost was sitting on my chest.
Everyone describes as something sitting on their chest. Yes,
Yeah.
They say that's a thing. But again, it can be just this mismatch that the paralysis just didn't switch off when everything else did. It's usually quite short, but it's the longest 15 seconds of your life.
Exactly. And again, like anesthetic, we've heard of stories where certain aspects of or functionality of the anesthetic doesn't work, and you hear of people who are paralyzed but not numb.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and experience the whole thing as if in real time.
Yeah.
We've got some very specific questions here that I think are actually quite interesting because maybe they're the kinds of questions lots of us have but are embarrassed to ask. So Nico's not. He says, "Do your eyes roll back in their sockets when you sleep?"
No, they don't. I mean, they actually physically can't.
The optic nerve is at the back. It
It
would be
is
a bit of
pretty
a
much.
disconnect. There would be a huge problem. It can't just switch off.
And
and-
the muscles just sit like this on
Yeah.
the side, and so they can go twitch, twitch, twitch. So no, they don't roll back at all.
Mm.
I never dream, says MRP, ever.
Mm.
There are people who just never dream.
I don't dream. So it's very rare for me to wake up in a dream, and it's usually with an alarm clock. So if I wake up naturally, I mean, I would say the last dream I had was 2 weeks ago, and the one before that was maybe 3 months ago.
Oh, I wait.
So I just don't dream. So and the point is that if you're a good sleeper, and I'm not a great sleeper when it comes to falling asleep, but once I'm asleep, I'm solid. So if you're a good sleeper, you don't remember dreams because those REM periods that are every hour and a half during the night, you just wake up and go back to sleep again. So you only remember a dream if you wake up in it. So there's a sense that if you have so patients will come and say, I have lots of dreams and I'm exhausted the next morning because of the dreams. And I go, it's not because of the dreams. It's whatever's waking you up.
Like your apnea.
In the dreams, like apnea, for example, whatever's waking you up in that dreaming sleep, that's what's creating the knowledge of the dreams or the experience of the dreams.
We'll get into the apnea in a second, but here's Jules, who I think is representative of a lot of people. I'm addicted to sleeping tablets. Would love to give them up, but I literally don't sleep the entire night. I don't.
So sleeping tablets are an interesting conundrum, and doctors sit in one of two camps. Either you can have as many as you like for as long as you like, or I'm never writing them up ever again. And I think the language is unfortunate when it comes to sleeping tablets. So it's very unusual for people to be addicted to sleeping tablets. In fact, very unusual. So no question, addicts use sleeping tablets. They do, but they're addicts, right? And they would use anything.
Sure.
So that's not the same thing. But your average person who is taking a sleeping tablet every night is not addicted. I mean, they're just not. None of them would go and rob a bank to get the money to go and buy them. Does that make sense? Addiction it's a very emotive term, and it means something specific, and it means something that there's a compulsive drug seeking, but there's also compromise of your family life, of your business, of your whatever,
right,
to continue taking that drug, right? So I don't think most patients are not addicted.
Not to sleeping
They're not
tablets.
addicted.
But maybe they're on sleeping tablets and they've lost the ability to regulate their own sleep.
Well, the important thing is sleeping tablets don't treat sleeping problems. So if you have insomnia and you take a sleeping tablet, all it does is pretend it's not there. It's like putting a plaster on it.
Right.
Okay?
But underneath
But if
there's
you
still
take-
a wound.
Yeah. There was a lovely quote from 1987, so a long time ago, where this guy said, the fact that sleeping tablets don't actually treat the insomnia, it should not surprise us that the insomnia comes back if you stop the tablets. Right? I mean, that's every medical condition. Everything. If you're taking antihypertensives for high blood pressure and you stop taking them, no one's surprised that the hypertension comes back. But no one shames people who are taking hypertensives. You see, you're dependent on that medication.
Right.
So are they dependent? Yes, but so is everybody who takes medication for anything. You are dependent on that medication to resolve that problem.
So what do you do if you're an insomniac?
Well, I think the main thing is you've got to figure out why you have insomnia and what's actually going on, because there's multiple types of insomnia. It's not just one thing. Certainly so for example, you can have delayed sleep phase syndrome, which is not your problem because you're up early in the morning, but people who do late night radio, for example, so they're up till 2 a.m, go to sleep at 3, sleep till 11. And then all of a sudden they get a morning gig and they go, I can't sleep. I can't go to sleep now at 9 o'clock in the morning and get up at 5. I'm like stuck in a time zone over yonder, right?
How long does it take you to adapt that if you suddenly start doing a night shift job, for example?
So it's much easier for us to delay our sleep, much easier than to advance it, what we call advance. So bring it forward, which is why if you travel west to the US, for example, it's really easy to get into that time zone.
Right.
But if you travel east, it's really hard because now so if you fly to Perth, for example, it's an easy one because it's 6 hours. And now you're trying to go to sleep at your 10 o'clock, except it's actually 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, no.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So or they want you to go to sleep at 10 o'clock, but for you, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you can't sleep.
if you are the sort of person who has this irregular sleep, or you're an insomniac, I mean, let's just say that you don't have great sleep, so you don't feel rested, and you have a nap in the afternoons. Is that helpful, or is it actually detrimental?
Well, it depends how long that nap is. So if it's a 20-minute, half an hour power nap, it's very useful because it does kind of recharge you for the afternoon. But there's a point at which it starts to interfere with the night's sleep. So I think it's useful to think like, I need 7 hours of sleep per 24 hours. Okay, so if I have 2 in the afternoon, then it's only 5 at night. So we see this in hospital patients, for example. So we know that patients in hospital ICU actually get the right amount of sleep, but half of it is now during the day because they're in bed all the time.
And because the lights are on all night and it never stops.
So the big question then is, what should we be doing? Listening to our bodies? Because we can't. People have to work. And the Industrial Revolution changed the way that we,
that damn Industrial Revolution.
Damned industrial. and generally, the idea that people need to have a work day or a work week or whatever. What is the natural inclination for human beings? Because if your body says to you at 3 a.m, you need to go to sleep, that's probably appropriate. But it might say to you, like the Spanish, that you need a siesta in the afternoons. And if people just listened to that and they followed their own rhythms, would they then be rested and happy?
Yep. Happier, definitely. So, I mean, the siesta is built on physiology, and it's built on biology, because everybody has a dip at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we have this like little dip, and our body temperature drops a little bit in the afternoon. And that's the drop in body temperature at night is driven by melatonin and what makes us feel really sleepy. So there is a sense that we're designed to sleep, have a sleep in the middle of the day, and then sleep later at night. And I mean, the siesta thing is, if you have 2 hours of sleep in the afternoon, no one goes to bed before midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning.
No, of course.
Because that's part of the 24-hour sleep.
And because they're lazy, and Spanish people hate work.
Yes, no, that too, possibly. But it's an appropriate time to sleep, So, and the thing is that everybody genetically is either sits in the middle between, sleeping between 10 and 6, or they're a lark or they're an owl. So the larks are people who go to bed at 9, get up at 5. They're in the gym at 5:30. They're like good to go, but they are not the party animals. So they're party poopers. At 9 o'clock, they're going, I'm heading home. The night owls are people who can stay up very late at night and then battle to get up early in the morning. So my worst patients are patients who are owls, but want to be cyclists as well.
Oof.
So they want to get up at 4:30, and they come and they go, please, can you make me alert at 4:30? And I go, listen, I'm good, but I'm not God, because like you are designed, you just biologically designed not to wake up at 4:30 in the morning.
That's the difficulty I found throughout my life. I mean, I've been in morning radio, if you want to call it that, for my whole adult life, and I'm an owl,
and it's just not natural.
And this is why I cry in the shower in the mornings.
Yeah.
Well, so am I, but I've just got used to it.
Yeah. But that's the point. You can get used to it. So can you override that? Of course you can. I mean, I'm an owl. I got up at 5:30 every morning for yonkers to get my kids to school.
Right.
So yes, you can override it, but it was a magical day when my youngest daughter got a car and I could sleep late. It was a very magical day. And I prefer, I much prefer going to bed 11:30 midnight and getting up at 6:30, 6:45, waking up at that point and starting patients at 9. That's a much happier zone for me than starting work at 8, for example.
I see a bunch of questions here. This is interesting. How do you create? This is the one. What about night terrors and sleep paralysis? A real nightmare. So that's you hinted at that earlier. But night terrors.
Yep. So when I said there were 2 types of parasomnias, we only spoke about the REM sleep ones.
Okay.
The other ones that come from this very deep, physically restorative sleep are sleepwalking, sleep talking, night terrors. Then when we started using sleeping tablets, particularly Zolpidem, we created sleep eating and sleep texting and sleep sexing and a whole bunch of other things that started to come up with a particular medication. So sleep eating is a good one. So you go to sleep and there's a block of cheese in the fridge, and when you wake up the next morning, there's no block of cheese in the fridge, but there's a packet in your bed that's empty. That's sleep eating. And the traditional thing about all of these disorders, and night terrors and sleepwalking fit into them, is that there's no memory of the event. So it happens in the middle of, it's almost as though sleep parts, and you get stuck in this twilight zone.
Oh.
Traditionally, you come from a very deep sleep and get woken up and then get stuck in the middle, and you just kind of sit and circle there and
How long does that go on for?
Oh, it can go on for quite a while.
I mean,
people have got up from their bed and walked, to a window and climbed out of a window and fallen out of 3-story windows and smacked glass panes with their hands. And so, that people have injured themselves and injured other people as well in these kind of events, because you don't know what you're doing. And if you wake somebody up who's asleep, so there's this tradition, you'll kill somebody if you wake them up in their sleepwalk. You won't kill them, you just confuse them horribly, because they sit there and go, what's happening? Like, why am I standing in the passage? But they have no memory of what they've done, and there's no dream, there's no actual drive for it, if that makes sense. So they're not going, oh, I was dreaming that I was walking here and now I'm walking. There's no dream content. The night terrors are really scary because they happen in little children, and they usually sit up in bed and just scream and scream. And if parents go in and try to console them, try to pick them up, they fight them off. There's like this demon,
So that's when they think the little shit's possessed.
Yes, exactly. And then they'll scream, and the parents sit there and go, well, there's nothing we can do. Like, we just stand and watch there, and they wait. That it can go on for 5 minutes. And it's long, very long, 5 minutes, and 5 minutes ends, and then they just stop and go back to sleep. And the parents just go, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like, they just look at each other and what just happened?
And the child is not aware of this when they wake up later.
No, in the morning, they have no idea it's happened. Not a clue. Same thing with sleepwalking.
And this is how, because I've never understood when someone in court, watching a documentary or whatever, says, I don't remember committing that crime or committing that murder. I've never believed it. And now I think I do.
Well, I think in the middle of the night there are, and there's a couple of cases that have gone through the courts in Canada particularly, where they've looked at people who have got up in the middle of the night, done things, and actually there have been homicides that have occurred in the middle of the night. And it's been a long process to kind of say, were they actually aware of what they were doing? Because there's two components. So there's firstly the sleep, sleepwalking and that kind of thing, which traditionally we talk about sleepwalking and sleep talking and night terrors, and they're all nice, discrete little things. But I mean, humans don't work like that. So they're often kind of smushed together. And you can have them, what's called a complex parasomnia, where you have multiple of these put together. But also you have a thing called sleep inertia, which you definitely have in the morning when you wake up. There's this feeling like you're up, but your whole body and brain is taking a while to catch up to you. And sleep inertia can last, certainly your mind as to what you're thinking can take, if it's a very deep sleep, 20 to 30 minutes to actually really get where you're in touch with what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a couple of questions about these sleep trackers that people wear.
Yeah.
Do you think that those are quite accurate?
So it's difficult because there's not a lot of work that's looked at how accurate they
You would
actually
need an
are.
electroencephalogram to
Exactly.
really-
So that's always the gold standard, that we go, how good are they at doing that? But what they're most useful for is tracking within one person. So if there's an error, then the error is constant. And so you can tell if you're sleeping better and you're sleeping worse because you're around your normal. But they're not bad. I mean, the Fitbits are better. The Aura ring is the best one, which is the ring that fits around your finger. But the Fitbits are not bad. I mean, they're kind of, 15 minutes, 20 minutes out on slow wave sleep and REM sleep, which in the context of 8 hours is really not
pretty good.
Is not that bad. Yeah.
And temperature, the temperature of a room you sleep in, what is ideal?
It's ideal for you. Okay. I mean, it's a tricky.
I've heard this.
I've
heard from you. You have to sleep at 18 degrees.
Yeah. So the thing about temperature really revolves on that change in body temperature that happens when you go to sleep. So we produce melatonin when it's dim light. So when the light starts to fade, we produce melatonin, and melatonin drops your body temperature, and then it stays low for the whole night, and then it comes up in the morning at your natural wake up time. So there's this very so melatonin controls the timing of your sleep, when it starts, when it stops. That's what melatonin does. And so there's been a lot of things that have been tried to improve the melatonin effect. So, for example, it's often the
Where is
reason
it produced?
in the pineal gland, so within the brain,
Right in the middle of the head.
right in the middle of the head, and
Is that the pineal gland's primary function?
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there are other functions. No one's really bothered. I mean,
Yeah, but that's
bothers.
fascinating because
It's a
it's
big-
this one little place that
Yeah.
controls such an important part of
Yeah.
our schedule. Of
Yeah.
our,
And it's controlled by light. So, the light that comes in through the eyes will switch it off. And then when the light fades in the evening, then it starts to be produced.
Well, it's funny. The question about the sleep trackers was from Prineal, not pineal, but Prineal.
Oh, Prineal,
in the
so
comments.
close.
Yeah.
But what I was saying about temperature as well is that that's why people have hot baths and hot showers, because what you do is raise the body temperature. And then as the body temperature is dropping, you tend to feel sleepy. So it's not the high temperature that works. It's the dropping afterwards.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So that's why you feel sometimes sleepy after a bath.
After a bath. Yeah.
And what about these people who take cold plunges in the morning? Is that a good way to wake up?
Well, yes, it'll wake you up. Will I ever do it? No.
No. Just a normal swimming pool is cold enough. Thank you.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Well, also these questions about THC and these the cannabis
CBD and
drops
things.
and So do those help? Are they good? Would you recommend them? Do you think that that's a wacky nonsense pseudoscience?
So it's not a pseudoscience. So cannabinoid research and cannabinoid use for medicine is not a pseudoscience. So there's just not enough evidence, mainly because it's illegal to do the studies in most countries in the world. So it's difficult to do the studies. So we do know that cannabis is very good for pain and it's very good for anxiety. And cannabis itself, so dacha, actually will help you fall asleep because of the THC component. But we also know that chronic cannabis users, for example, chronic dacha users, find it extremely difficult to get off cannabis because of the impact it has on sleep. So the information we have is it takes 45 days once you've stopped smoking dacha for your sleep to come back. So you get massive insomnia, lots of nightmares. It's a really bad withdrawal symptom that you have with cannabis. CBD itself tends to help with anxiety and helps with pain. So if you have insomnia or sleep difficulties because of pain, then they work. But the official line is that currently there's no good evidence that CBD oil works for any specific sleep disorder. There's what they call tantalizing evidence, but it's not enough to say, yes, it does something. I mean, restless leg syndrome is one of the disorders that I deal with a lot. And patients often discover through the process of trying to fix this that dacha works really well. For restless legs, but CBD doesn't. So and remember, we've got 40 cannabinoids in dacha. It's not just CBD and THC.
So you got to figure out what each of those
There's a whole
does.
bunch. I mean, there's one of them, dronabinol, which has been shown in some patients to improve sleep apnea.
Goodness me.
Well, this gives us an intro because Leigh-Ann has a sleeping Jesus. It's this huge contraption that she puts
it's not
on.
a huge contraption.
It is. She looks ridiculous. She brought it in one morning and we had to, people were logging on from Uzbekistan to see this weird apparatus that she had. And she looks like a science fiction monster when she wears it.
Darth Vader. It's a Darth Vader.
And it's just to help her breathe at night so she doesn't
Or just
die.
help me not, because I stop breathing.
Yeah.
Every few seconds.
But I think it's important to you don't stop breathing. I mean, I think it's important for the language because I've had to kind of correct my language because, and that's what people think apnea is, that you stop breathing. And it's kind of sinister to think that you go to sleep and you just trust your brain to like keep you alive the whole night, and it might stop
You should
breathing.
be concentrating. Oh my God.
So your brain doesn't stop breathing. But what does happen is that the airway collapses.
Yes.
And so even when you have apnea, when you have an apnea and the throat kind of collapses at the back and there's no snoring and it's very super quiet, if you look at the chest is still trying to breathe. So the kind of breathing control in the brain is working really well. It's a similar concept to having a hose pipe on a tap and if the water pressure's there and everything's fine and someone keeps standing on the end.
Yes.
So it's that you stop moving air, I think is the more correct way to talk
and
about
then there's
apnea.
So she's just undisciplined.
the kind of the trauma that you go through when you do eventually start breathing in again.
Oh, yeah.
And waking up from that. I mean, it's something. So just to go backwards a little bit, I was experiencing jaw pain.
Mm.
And that I was told was bruxism.
Mhm.
And that I was told was because of the apnea.
Mhm.
And that I was told could be helped with Botox into the jaw muscles and temporal muscles.
You're just a disaster.
It's just like
You
one
are
after the other.
like-
But it's amazing how for such a long time, I was saying to family members and friends, I feel like I'm dying at night.
Mm.
I feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And no one understood.
But I think if you're a single person and you don't have a bed partner, then you don't know you have apnea.
That's it.
You honestly don't. You have you can have random symptoms. So there's very key symptoms of sleep apnea, and that is you wake up tired. No matter how much sleep you get, you wake up tired. But what we do is we kind of go, oh, maybe I'm stressed, maybe I'm working too hard, maybe it's menopause, maybe it's this, maybe it's, we just go through a whole lot of reasons as to why we might wake up tired. And then unfortunately what happens is that normalizes, and we go, okay, this is normal. And then you'll get an extra tired piece and you go, oh, no, I'm tired. And once we see patients with sleep apnea, they honestly have no idea what it feels like to wake up feeling good in the morning anymore. They just don't know.
It's a big surprise
So what
when it happens.
It is a big
do you do? Do
surprise.
you go to a sleep clinic and you actually...
It is important to have a diagnostic study, but everywhere in the world now, those studies are done at home because it's much simpler, it's much cheaper, and it's much faster to get it done. And you sleep better because you're not
Well, that's the
sleeping in a
thing.
sleep
I mean,
lab.
like my test was in a shopping center overnight in a bed.
Mm.
And firstly, I knew there were cameras on me. I'm wired up. I haven't had my normal couple of glasses of wine before I go to sleep. I've just eaten my dinner in a shop window with people walking past doing their window shopping. And I know that this woman's next door watching my every move.
Yeah.
So now to try and fall asleep, I was like, this thing is never going to work.
Yeah.
And I felt like I slept for 2 minutes, but she got the whole test done and all of the results.
So, I mean, we need more than 4 hours of sleep. That's really what we need. And the important thing is that all you have to do is just fall asleep, because we're not interested in the wake part of it at all. Once you fall asleep, we go, aha, here's what's happening. And it's really easy to see. I mean, certainly if you have severe sleep apnea, which is 30 times per hour or more.
Yeah, that's what mine is.
If you're in that zone, then
I think mine's 60.
Yeah, well, you pretty much start the minute you close your eyes, and the minute you fall asleep, boom, they're the apneas. And so it's very easy to see them. And so we try to get a good recording because we want to get as much data as we can. So we want to know what happens during REM sleep, because it usually gets worse during REM sleep. We want to know what happens when you lie on your back, because that gives us a treatment option. So if we don't have CPAP as a treatment, I mean, the contraption you're talking about is CPAP.
Yeah.
If you don't have CPAP as an option, and remember that 85% of our country has no access to sleep medicine at all, because there is none in the public sector. So, and they can't afford a CPAP machine because we're talking 10,000, 15,000 Rand.
Yeah.
And they're not on medical aid. So if you don't have that as an option, what do you do about treatment? So we do have patients who have apneas of 25 per hour, which traditionally we would go, you need to be on CPAP. But if you look at when they lie on their back, it's like 50 an hour. And actually, if we can get them off their back, then they won't.
Because I was going to ask you
apnea.
the position. Everybody obviously has a more comfortable position they prefer to sleep in.
Yeah.
But what do you recommend?
Well, you can't recommend, because the point is, once you fall asleep, you don't have control.
Well, so the funny thing is, to me,
At that point,
strapping tennis balls to
I
your back.
sleep.
That
sleep
works beautifully.
pretty well. I mean, when I do sleep, I sleep well. But I'm constantly moving around, and I always wake up with like a crick in the neck. I can't seem to find a sleeping position that bloody well works. If I could just find that, I'd sleep beautifully.
So it's a neck position that you
I think
need.
it's a neck.
It's a neck position. Yeah, it's a comfort of the neck.
Is
So I
your
need a
pillow,
pill- I
is your
need a
pillow
different
shaped
pillow,
like
maybe.
this?
Well, I mean,
like a wave, or is it just round?
You do need a proper pillow. I mean, you do need a pillow that works for you. So I never wake up with a crick in my neck, but I did on Sunday morning after babysitting for
Right, for the
action,
concert.
because I was in a different bed and a different pillow, and I woke up
Right.
and I went, oh, that's odd. Like, not
Okay,
used to that kind of crick.
So maybe I should try different pillows until I find the
Try
right
kind
one.
of memory foam pillows that actually do support your head properly.
Okay.
Because they tend to, as I said, give you more support and your neck more support. But it was interesting, you're talking about bruxism and jaw pain and things like that. So when you lie on your back, the problem is that your jaw moves backwards and creates part of the obstruction. And then your brain kind of goes, no, push it forward. And so it clenches the teeth. And so that's why bruxism is a sign of sleep apnea. Not in everybody, but in some people, because of the brain trying to keep the jaw in the right place so it doesn't fall back. And that gives us another treatment option. So, I mean, mouth taping is the easiest way to manage the jaw thing. Doesn't always work for everybody, but I've got patients who've gone from moderate sleep apnea down to mild sleep apnea just by mouth taping. So the tennis ball in the back works brilliantly. I don't use a tennis ball. I use I'm saying in treatment, I use a practice golf ball, the ones with holes in them. And then we sew that into the back of whatever you're wearing in between your shoulder blades so that when you move over onto your back, it's uncomfortable and you just keep moving. So a lot of patients go, I never sleep on my back. I only sleep on my left or my right-hand side. I go, so how do you get from your left to your right-hand side?
What happens in the middle?
You've got to be on your back unless you're going over your tummy, which is a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you do sleep on your back, and then often you go on your back. And if you have a lot of apneas there, you're just on your back for 5 minutes. And I kind of think the brain kind of goes, nope, that was a bad idea. Let's move off. I'm dying. I'm dying here, you know?
Yeah.
So move over onto the other side. So there are other treatments for sleep apnea. I mean, weight loss is obviously one because if you increase weight, you increasing here. ENT obstruction. So in children who have sleep apnea, and they do, 95% cure rate if you take out the adenoids and tonsils. You know, so there are other ways to treat sleep apnea.
What about something Leigh-Ann said just now about her glass of wine or bottle of wine or whatever it might? How much was it? It was a lot.
Oh, at least.
Okay, so alcohol obviously has a detrimental effect on sleep.
Well, anything that's going to relax the muscles further than they're already relaxed is going to make it worse. Yes.
Muscle relaxing is
so part of the reason why we get apnea is because we just age, right? And so that throat just becomes floppier on the inside. And so the muscle tone is not great anyway. And then when we go to sleep, and particularly in REM sleep, as I said, there's paralysis, and that muscle tone is just the dilating muscle tone to open the airway is just not there.
Yeah.
And so much more likely to collapse. So anything that will reduce the muscle tone will sedate you. So sleeping tablets fall in the same category that will sedate you. Remember that when you close off the airway, the brain allows that for a certain period of time. And then it kind of goes, oh, we have to stop this. We have to wake up. And then you get that thing happening, you know, and then it opens up. But at that time, you pour out adrenaline. Pulse rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up. Often patients wake up, and I say, do you ever wake up choking, gasping, coughing? And they go, no, but I do sometimes wake up with a little palpitation. And I go, so that's after the apnea. So there's the wake up and then the surge of adrenaline.
Yeah.
And that's where all the complications come from.
Well, you won't get back to sleep after that surge of adrenaline.
Well, you'd be surprised. Well, 3 seconds later.
They do. Yeah, they do. They do because they're so exhausted.
Yeah,
I mean, remember that if you close off that airway 60 times an hour, you're sleeping in 10-second, 1 second bits.
Oof.
You know, so your sleep is
God, that must be horrible. How do you manage?
No, it's terrible.
No, your sleep is completely trashed. And the sad thing is that most people don't know it's happening.
That's it.
You know, and it is very treatable. It is very treatable. But unfortunately, the CPAP machine, which works extremely well, and nobody wants to go to sleep with a mask on their face. They don't. And so everybody does what we call a CPAP titration. So we kind of give you the mask. So my machine for 3 days, like just try it.
Yeah.
And then give the machine back. And then usually 2 days later, patients are phoning us and going, no, I need that machine. I feel awful. And my partner always goes like, that's part of our marketing plan. It's like, give it to you, show you a taste of heaven and then take it away again.
Yeah.
And then definitely.
Because everybody knows there's nothing better than good sleep.
No, exactly.
So here's an interesting question. So Food Converter says, restless penis syndrome is a big sleep inhibitor for him. But restless leg, that's a real thing.
Oh, it's a real thing. Yes.
What happens there?
So it's in the evening. It mainly occurs at night. And it's sitting still. And when you sit still, you kind of go, I have to move my legs. Like they feel weird. And there's nothing there. You look at your legs and you go, there's nothing there. Kids are great who have it. So they describe it like Coca-Cola in my veins. Okay. Or my muscles are pulling and stretching on their own, or have ants running inside my bones. It's a movement thing. I mean, there's a movement
this is during
inside.
sleep.
No, it's when you're awake.
Yeah, because I have that. I tap my foot the whole time and I move my leg the whole time. Does that mean I do that in my sleep as well?
So you might. So if we measure, if we do manage to get patients with restless legs to keep their legs still, and we monitor the muscles, so it's mainly the muscle in the front of your calf that's lifting the front of your shin, that's lifting your toes up. And if we monitor that, we can see these little electrical impulses coming in every 20 seconds. They're often not enough to create a movement, but they're enough to give you that kind of moving feeling, like there's something moving in my legs. It's coming from the spinal cord. That's where the original problem is. But it's creating this, I have to move. If you move, your legs feel better while you're moving. But when you stop moving and you're at rest again, it comes back. So it can be really destructive to sleep. And then when you fall asleep, those little twitches, those 20-second twitches can happen during sleep as well. And then they fragment your sleep. So honestly, the kind of, if you're single, you wake up in the morning feeling tired.
Yeah.
It could be that as well. All that. So it could be either of those two disorders.
Strange creatures we are, really.
But that's easily treated. So I mean, that one is easily treated. There's good medication for it. And we treat it, and usually before it starts, kind of give medication then to stop it even starting. And then it treats the going to sleep and the middle of the night as well. So
Theron says, what happens when you wake up with a dry throat? Well, you probably didn't drink enough water.
Snoring.
Snoring.
Is it snoring?
It's apnea. Yeah. So if it's a consistent thing, so we're supposed to breathe through our nose because our noses don't get dry. And no matter how long we breathe through them, that's where the humidification system is, and the warming and the hairs to catch bugs and whatever. We're designed to breathe through our nose. If we're constantly breathing through our mouth, that's what happens with apnea and snoring. So there's an obstruction, and then it becomes much easier to breathe through the mouth. And then the mouth is not designed for large volumes of air.
I knew a 17-year-old girl, says MM, who would fall asleep at any time and wouldn't wake up despite any attempt to wake her up. What is that called?
Oh, it could be anything.
But what we see, they take the piss out of narcolepsy in movies, and, TV series, and all that kind of thing. But how dangerous is this, and what does it actually involve? How much of it is myth and nonsense? It's been made up for entertainment.
So again, narcolepsy, very specific condition, quite rare. So 1 in 1,000. I mean, we're talking sleep apnea. The modeling study that was done on South Africa says sleep apnea in adults is about 23% of the population, moderate to severe apnea. Insomnia, most populations comes in 5 to 10%, like chronic insomnia. Narcolepsy, 1 in 1,000, so it's 0.01%. So it's an unusual sleep disorder. And it's to do with a compound called orexin in the brain, which is a neurotransmitter. And just like in type 1 diabetes, somehow all of the cells that produce insulin are just wiped out in the pancreas. The same thing happens here. So young people, all the orexin cells just get wiped out. And then what happens is there's a complete instability of REM sleep. So the narcolepsy presents with the hallucinations. They present with the sleep paralysis. They present with falling asleep during the day, usually quick naps, 15 to 20 minutes, very refreshing, but uncontrollable. Like they cannot not fall asleep. And then they present with cataplexy. Now, cataplexy is the paralysis of REM sleep happening during the day when there's a sudden emotion. So usually laughter or anger. And they can. So laughing till you're weak at the knees comes from narcolepsy.
Wow.
So that phrase, because that's what happens. So it's kind of, if you sit around and you listening to jokes and you go, ha, 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 and then there's that one joke, like just gets you. And then the narcoleptic potentially collapses to the floor because they lose all muscle tone in the whole body, or they lose it around the jaw. So around the jaw area called bulbar, around the jaw, and they kind of go, they kind of go, can't move my jaw. And they're wide awake when this happens.
I'd love to
is
have
that like
someone like
fainting
that.
goats?
I'd love to have someone like that around. It would be hugely entertaining.
Yeah. So I mean,
do they hurt themselves?
They do. No, they do. That's the problem. So with cataplexy, and so it's a very specific condition, and we can't treat it. We can't replace the orexin yet. We don't have medication to do that, and so we have to keep them awake during the day. But most of them are very well controlled, and they are good. But certainly, that comment, a 17-year-old who's sleeping all the time and we can't wake them up, they've got to have an assessment because there's a sleep disorder, right? I don't know what it is, because it could be anything. And it really depends on a much bigger history that we would take from them. Like, is this happening? Is that happening? We often get parents for 17-year-olds to go and watch them sleeping for an hour. Like, can you see anything that's happening that gives us a clue as to where to go on this? So, I mean, we do home studies for sleep apnea, and then we do full studies. So in a home study is very much like an X-ray, that you just take a standard X-ray. And a full study is like an MRI, like we've got everything we can measure currently. And then we can see what's going on. So there are different types of studies. The one you had was a full polysomnogram where we're doing EEGs and all the sleep stages and the legs and the breathing and monitor everything that we can.
Derek says in the comments, I like forcing myself to get really, really tired.
Yeah.
That's the best type of sleep, a well-deserved one.
I think it's really important that you are tired when you go to sleep. I mean, it sounds like
Yeah.
a bit of an oxymoron. Like, of course you should be tired when you go to sleep, but a lot of people go to bed because it's bedtime. Like 10 o'clock is bedtime. And so they just go to bed. And a lot of the patients I have with insomnia are going to bed at 10 o'clock because it's bedtime, but they're not sleepy. And if you're not sleepy, you're going to battle to fall asleep. That's how sleep works. You're supposed to be sleepy. So you need to create that sleepiness. And the older you get, often the harder it is to create that, because you're not out exercising as much as when you were younger.
Is it true that you can actually monitor the brain waves and see what kind of a sleep someone is in?
You mean with an EEG and
Yeah.
things like, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how do those different modes of sleep relate to each other?
So, well, there's a very particular pattern that happens at night. So obviously every night is going to be different depending on what the brain needs. So the brain, once, as I said, all you have to do is fall asleep, and then the brain does its thing.
Right.
And then the brain will go, let's have some slow wave sleep now, and let's have some stage 2, and let's have some REM, and let's kind of sort all of that out. So it's very organized, sleep is. There's 4 stages of sleep. So we're N1, N2, N3, and then, so that's non-REM, and then and REM sleep. So we always kind of go into sleep from stage 1. So we kind of go in, it's the stage where you are sitting in front of the TV and
You're starting to-
snoring. Yeah. And you're
right.
just starting to go, but you're not asleep yet. Stage 2 is like official sleep. And stage 2 seems to be the background against which the slow wave sleep and the REM sleep happen. So I was watching EEGs. We used to do 500 studies a year, in the sleep lab in Morningside when I was there in the 90s. And I used to look at all of them because that's how we did the analysis.
Right.
And so you look at the sleep stages and you go, oh, there's stage 2. And I can look at it and go, they're about to go into REM sleep. So there's this preparation to go into deep sleep and this preparation to go into REM sleep that happens in stage 2. But most of our night is stage 2. It's a lighter kind of sleep. 20% of the night should be N3, which is the deep stage of sleep now.
Right.
And 20% of the night should be REM sleep, roughly. But if you're pregnant, for example, a lot more N3. If you do more exercise, more N3, because you need more physical restoration. I mean, most of us are not growing in our sleep, except maybe sideways, but we're not growing, but we are repairing. And so if you do a lot more breakdown during the day, then you need a lot more repair at night, if that makes sense. But it's a very controlled thing. So you kind of go into that, and about 90 minutes after you fall asleep, you'll have a little patch of REM sleep. Okay. And then you'll have a wake up. That's the end of the first cycle. It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours, somewhere on there. And then you go back into the N1, N2, N3. 90 minutes later, have a bit more REM sleep.
Now, my favorite thing is that kind of almost like you're in the twilight zone between sleep and being awake.
What, when you wake up?
Well, or when you go to sleep.
Or when you go to sleep.
It usually happens to me much more during the day than it does at night. If I feel like,
Like
on
if
weekends.
you're driving and it's
No, not doing things. No. I can actually lie there and you fall into sleep and come out of it, into sleep and come out of it. It almost feels sort of dreamy, but it's the nicest feeling when you're relaxed as hell.
Yes.
And it's not like a sleep problem. This is, you've had all the restorative sleep that you need, but it's almost like a little bonus of kind of just hallucinating a little bit.
Yeah. Insomniacs hate that.
Do they?
Because that's what they have at night when they can't get that deep sleep.
Okay.
So they do that kind of
frustrating
drifting in and out, and not being actually able to fall asleep. And they can do it for hours and hours and hours. It's extremely frustrating.
What about the idea of sound? So a lot of people in the comments have been talking about how they're testing, white noise in the background or music.
There's all kinds of color noise now.
No, it's pink.
It's a bit beyond me. It's a bit beyond me. I haven't investigated.
Do you think
that.
there's anything to it?
Well, the thing about falling asleep is often if you're a thinker, and I don't mean to imply that some people aren't thinkers, but some people just have this internal dialogue that's going on in their heads. It's very difficult to shut that off.
Yeah.
Okay. And you need to be distracted from it. But some people, so some people need to be distracted as in they need to read or they need to meditate before that sleepiness comes up, because otherwise they just keep going. So some people need to be distracted. Other people are too distracted when they're trying to fall asleep. So they're lying there and they go, oh, the fridge, it's just gone, boo. The fridge, like, does it?
Yeah.
And the fridge has just gone off and I can't sleep. And there's a twitch and there's a twig and there's a noise. And so white noise or any kind of noise really fulfills two functions. Firstly, it can distract you. So some people say they fall asleep easily with a podcast or whale sounds, or there's a lot of calm apps, that will give you some noise.
Sound of rain.
So that you can listen to that. And if you listen to that, it makes it easier to fall asleep because you're distracted. And other people use white noise to stop them hearing.
That's it, yeah.
All kinds of other stuff. So, which also helps them fall asleep because they get too distracted by the random noise.
Yeah.
That's always there.
I think for me, that's also a difficulty. I have ADHD and the internal dialogue it's loud.
Yeah.
It feels like it's hurting my ears.
Yes.
And for that, I've got to have the fan on.
That's the white noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In order to fall asleep, to try and stop that.
What about drinking water? Because people, you have to have some water next to your bed in case you get thirsty. This is a physiological thing. It's got nothing to do with sleep, maybe. But peeing and waking up in the middle of the night and all that kind of thing to go and pee is irritating to some people. And it does get in the way of this.
It is. And it does, particularly in older men. So when prostate problems start to become an issue, then they do find they're often up at night. But those wake-ups are likely to happen in our natural wake-up times. So at the end of that 90 minutes. So your sleep is usually fine because you've had those 90 minutes. And if that's when you wake up during the night. So we often going to say like wake-ups are normal. And if you take sleep, so say you need to sleep for 6 or 7 hours, but you go to bed for 10, what the brain does is separate your sleep into those pieces. And now you're going to have those wake-ups are now going to be half an hour long because the brain's got 4 hours, 3 hours to play with.
Yeah.
That's what patients with insomnia do. It's the single worst thing they do is when they battle to sleep, they go, well, let me go to bed earlier. Like maybe that'll help. No, it won't actually help at all. It makes it worse. Now you're lying in bed for longer trying to sleep. That never works anyway, just lying in bed trying to sleep. That doesn't work. And now you're doing it for longer. So that's you can see those gaps and you can create much bigger gaps. I mean, I think it's important that only when we kind of got light, like gas lights or anything, did we have any control overnight. And some literature from old England kind of indicates that we went to bed, we got home from the fields because everything was practical work, washed, had English tea, which was just a sandwich and a cup of tea, and went to bed because we were exhausted.
Yeah.
Slept for like 3-4 hours, which is what we call core sleep. And there's a natural break after 3 or 4 hours of sleep. Got up, stoked the fires, had dinner, had community time for a couple of hours, went back to sleep at 2. And nobody in that time panicked about, am I going to get enough sleep? Am I going to worry?
No.
It was normal. It was normal to do that. You would be up to create that sleepiness again, and then you'd get your other sleep and wake up at dawn. So this idea that we never slept for 12 hours.
So you want 2 sleeps.
But that's the point. So the thing is, if you go to bed and you spend too long in bed, it's going to separate back into what it was.
Right. And we're trying to force the square peg into a round hole.
That damned industrial revolution.
Again,
Yeah.
not necessarily that, because I think it's useful to have that. But I often wonder, like, what the family interaction would have been once everyone had had 3 or 4 hours of sleep.
Much better.
In the middle
Probably
of
much
the night.
better, because nothing worse than being tired. You're grouchy and grumpy.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
so when you are tired and you really are exhausted and you find yourself falling asleep in meetings and things, which happens to me all the time, is that because you haven't got the required sleeps? There hasn't been the restorative stuff. The body's exhausted. It needs to recover. How much of that can you take?
What do you mean? How much can you take?
It's a kind of torture to not be able to sleep.
Yes. Oh,
So what? How?
But that's why people end up taking sleeping tablets, because they kind of go, I have to get some sleep, and I cannot get it myself. I just don't know why I can't get it. And I mean, as I said, there are multiple reasons why you might not be able to get it, but I can't get it myself. I need something to help me sleep.
What's the longest a person can stay awake before they actually start to physiologically deteriorate beyond saving?
We see it every time there's a Guinness World Record that's done, because they get 5 minutes rest per hour, and they usually consolidate that into sleep, like take 2 hours of sleep. And within 4 or 5 days, they're seeing spiders and hallucinating and not functioning properly. So it's not long. It's one of those absolute requirements that the brain has. And if you don't, and if you don't get enough sleep, or you get poor quality sleep, and they present the same way, in that you're just going to feel tired during the day or sleepy during the day, then it starts to compromise you, because when you sit still, your brain's kind of going, great, we can sleep, right? But you're kind of going, but I'm driving a car, like maybe we shouldn't sleep now. So that's the concern. And people kind of go, no, I've never fallen asleep driving in my car. And I go, yet, because the first time you do may be the last. I mean, potentially that is what we're talking about. We're talking about people traveling at 120 Ks on the highway.
Well, I often think that the cops will have had this discussion so many times with people who say, well, drunk driving is so dangerous. And I go, yes, but sleepy driving is even worse.
So there was an interesting
if you're
study.
Tired, and they can't pull you over and attach an EEG to your brain.
No, they can't.
Well, I can see that you're really tired. You shouldn't be driving.
There's no objective measure. That's the point. It's not like alcohol. But a really interesting study done in 1980s, which can't be done, which was never been done again, looked at what the comparison was between functioning when you haven't slept and alcohol. And so they woke people up, and then they gave them alcohol, and worked out that after 21 hours of being awake, you are functioning at the legal limit of alcohol. Okay. So to put that in perspective, wake up at 6 a.m, at 3 the next morning, you are legally drunk.
Right.
Even if you had any alcohol. And I don't know anyone who's on the roads at 3 o'clock in the morning that hasn't had alcohol as well.
Yeah, that's also
Do you know what I'm saying? So you are over, even if you legally measure under the legal limit of alcohol, you're functioning way over that. And that's the problem with sleep deprivation.
I can't believe we've been talking to you for an hour, because there's so many other questions that have come up. But this always happens when we have you on.
Yep.
So sorry.
Sleep's super interesting.
People are. It is really, really interesting, and they're not, as you said, a lot of people who've been as well versed in this as you have over the years. So are there more people coming to the sleep side of medicine?
Doctors wise, yes, they're starting to come. Yes, but it's been a hard road.
You were ahead of the curve.
I didn't even know there was a curve.
Did they think you were a bit wacky when you wanted to study this stuff?
Well, yeah, they did. I mean, because it was like, it isn't a field. And I go, okay, because it's not a specialty. It's still not a specialty, right? And I still sit in the practitioner, actually.
Yeah.
But apparently I only do sleep, And I kind of go, this is crazy. Like, psychiatrists send me their patients and neurologists send me their patients. And I kind of go, you guys should know this, shouldn't you? Like, I feel like
there's so much about the brain we still don't know.
Yeah, but I still have a bit of imposter syndrome. But I fortunately have got over most of that, because you have to get over it. Otherwise, you just sit there and pretend you're a shrinking violet when you're actually not.
Yeah,
I keep seeing these bits of pop psychology, about how many hours of sleep you need and how many these great people from history used to have, and we don't know
their daytime routines.
Yeah, whether they woke up early or late. It doesn't seem to make very much. There isn't a pattern.
No, if you're looking at successful people and how they sleep, there isn't a pattern. It's certainly true that if you only need 4 or 5 hours of sleep, you get a lot more done.
That's true.
Okay, get a lot more done. And if you are in a business, then you will do better, because you have an extra 3 hours a day.
Yeah,
and you will work. I mean, because that's your drive, right? But there's no sense of, everybody who's successful has always been this, or has always been an owl, or has always been a lark, or
And also I think it's important not to punish yourself if you do need those extra hours of sleep, and every night. It's important to not to say, it's okay. It doesn't mean that I'm not intelligent, or that I'm not capable, or that I'm not driven.
No. I mean, quite the opposite. I mean, Einstein was a famous 9-hour a night sleeper. So he was a very long sleeper. And I mean, studies done in kids show that the smart kids are the ones that sleep longer, that sleep better. Certainly that doesn't match. So it's not an intelligence-based thing. It's more, you just have time. You just have more time. So you can write that book because you have extra time.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, more than intelligence. I mean, we know that intelligence is not necessarily linked to success. You can be super smart and super
poor.
Useless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you can be super smart and a serial killer. I'm just saying.
There's a very funny comment earlier that made me think, all this talk of sleep makes me sleepy.
Yeah.
I want to go and have a nap now.
So I see patients, for a full day, and when I start at 9, and by 11:30 I'm yawning because
Not just you.
I suffer through the day. Particularly if
Yeah.
I haven't slept well, I suffer through the day because we talk about sleep all the time.
Oh my God.
And for like 8 hours a day, talk about sleep. Yeah, no, I get super sleepy.
Well, thank you for telling us all of this stuff, because it's invaluable. And I do think we've, again, only scratched the surface of all the stuff that you could be telling us. Amazing, amazing stuff. Thank you. Dr. Alison Bentley, sleep expert. What a pleasure to have you here.
Great pleasure.
And we will see you again soon.
Yep.
And the rest of us must get some sleep, but
Yep.
not now. 'Cause
Not
our
right
day-
now.
Our day has just begun.
Oh, days is
All right. We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m.